Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well,
All right. All right. Welcome, everybody. This is your gentle good morning show with Jackson Barrett Robinson and Brad, was it Samuel, right? Brad Samuel Fulton?
that is right. It
Brad
is Brad
Samuel Fulton.
Samuel Fulton here.
What's up, everybody? I was having some tech difficulties. And it's probably because I didn't have any coffee this morning because my coffee grinder downstairs is no way to Paquache empty. So
I thought you were going to say your coffee grinder was broken, and I was wondering why you wouldn't fix it because you can do everything.
oh yeah, that's right. Well, that's why I have two coffee grinders. So when my one breaks, I got a backup.
Oh,
Well, Brad, welcome again.
well, this is very exciting. I've been waiting all week. Can everybody hear me okay? Did everyone respond on the text there?
Mm-hmm.
I'm all mic'd up.
They were grumpy last week about the mic, but
They were grumpy, and we want to make them happy.
you got you a little attached piece of technology to your lapel.
Well, when the witness relocation program moved me with Henry Hill from Goodfellas, they gave me this microphone in 1991.
All right.
I'm not sure if it works still.
All right, let's do this. What are we doing today?
We're going to do that awesome ad card that we spent hours looking at vintage Leyendecker art.
Yes, J.C. Leyendecker.
Who I had seen his work many times, but was never approaching the fandom that you had for him until we went on that binge looking at his angular, beautiful, painterly style.
And of course, you were like, "Hey, you should draw something like that." And I was like, "Oh, great! Now I have to draw like Leyendecker."
Well, you can do anything, and
We'll
especially
see.
if you're a fan.
We'll see. We'll see. All right, so I'm gonna open this. I got this open. Let's see here. Open. I just saved it to my desktop about 20 minutes ago. What did I call that? Something ad card.
You called it Crazy Photograph Sent to Me by an insane person that lives in Texas.
Yes, that's what it was. Let's see. Jackson.
If anybody out there isn't familiar with J.C. Leyendecker's work, Jackson has educated me quite a bit on him. It's basically Norman Rockwell before Rockwell existed, so it's interesting.
It's Norman Rockwell's predecessor. That's the guy that's before it, right?
That's right.
the old brain's not hitting on all cylinders.
Well, it's kind of like if there's a website in the future called Jack's Wild Project, and somebody draws a currency on playing cards, they will be like the Leyendecker, and you will be like the Norman Rockwell.
Yes. All right, I found it. I just got to save it again. So originally, this is a Chesterfield cigarette ad.
One of my favorite advertising companies, because when I used to smoke Chesterfields with Nancy and Ronnie at White House parties, I was really into them.
Oh, Nancy and Ronnie. Those peeps, they're nice.
Didn't Ronnie do ads for Chesterfield?
Probably.
I think Ronnie
So this
Reagan
is
did Chesterfield ads.
This is a J.C. Leyendecker ad.
We think it is. I don't know that we have confirmation, but if it's not, it's somebody in the office who was paid to look like him.
Yeah, I don't have a specific confirmation, but I'll just pull up Pinterest.
It's a very awkward position. I had to be photographed, and I had to change the position a little bit, so Jackson would have a better point of reference. But it's a very interesting composition, as we say, angular. I love the kind of watercolory paint splotch in the background. It's just altogether, it needs to be redone.
I think that I've confirmed that it's Leyendecker. Do you know why?
Why?
Look at this rough draft drawing.
Oh, hey, look at that.
It's basically like the same composition, just him not looking at the viewer.
Do you think that guy could really play guitar? Or do you think he was like me, trying to be, Kurt Cobain before his time?
Probably that. But these are all Leyendecker illustrations. He had an incredible angular style, and you can see here that within the pictures, he would just like give it this looseness, and he wouldn't even fill in. He would use brush strokes to like create the form and everything. And one of the things that I think he's incredible at which I'm probably going to suck at, is the way he does wrinkles and folds and such.
I think that he was known as the person who invented dry cleaning and pressing shirts because everybody in his pictures seems that they needed it.
Yes, or that they did it.
But it's the style. It's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. It is cool. So yeah.
See, look at the Saturday Evening Post. The use of that, hot color there.
Where's that?
You just had it up. It was like just a little kind of red circle in the background. It's almost similar to the orange in the background of the Chesterfield ad.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
He's very good at focal points. The angularity of it with
look at this girl's shoulder.
Color.
Let me see if I can go to it. Look at this girl's shoulder right here. How it like points up to her face and her neck. And like, who are these people looking at? It's just awesome. But anyways, that's what we're going to show. That's what I'm going to fail miserably at trying to emulate today. But
that's the whole point of these, you told me, right?
Yeah, to look like the cigarette ads. And then here's our model that we're using. Boom.
Wow.
Look at
I
that.
would much rather have to see her.
See her?
I'd rather see her than me on a card, for sure.
All right, let's see here. Let's go. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, paste. I wonder if we can...
Look at this great photo here, people. I mean, this is amazing. This was in the National Gallery in D.C., and I asked for a license for it.
So we can either do this. We can do this Leyendecker style, which we're gonna try. There may be, like, I keep looking at this. This even looks like a mandolin or something. It's so small.
Who, my Fender Stratocaster?
No, this Well, I guess you're not watching. The guy that the Chesterfield ad is playing. It's really small.
But I think that's his. Yeah, it does look very small. I think and look at the neck of it. I mean, the head on it.
Yeah, maybe it's a ukulele.
He looks like he'd be. I don't know what he'd be playing.
He wouldn't be playing a ukulele.
Does he look happy?
You think he's gonna play Kumbaya?
Maybe that is a symbolic of a campfire in the background.
So we're going to come up here. We're going to grab this section right here. I love that it says they satisfy. Well, I can't read. I was like, I thought it said they satisfying. I was like, what? How does it say that?
They are satisfying.
It's the no coffee. It's the no coffee, bro. I'm telling you.
Have you ever gone without coffee for a long period of time?
Yeah, I guess so. I think so. So we're going to pull that up to the top because we'll end up putting some kind of font towards the bottom.
And we'll have to think of something else for it to say. I think these terms don't apply to us.
I like them. I don't know. I like them pretty lot. I think that's pretty good. All right, see. It could be a banjo. Somebody said in the text that it's a banjo. It's kind of got the small neck and head of a banjo.
I think it's probably a guitar, and Leyendecker played around with just shortening it for composition's sake. I don't think he was a rules guy.
Right. I got you. So I'm going to try, just for giggles here, I'm going to see if I can't pull your head off your body and put it right on that form. No,
you see, like the texture of the watercolor paint. Is that achievable digitally today?
We can achieve anything digitally, my friend. And I was even thinking about that yesterday on the ride home. I was driving home from the shop, and I was like, I wonder how we can get that kind of orange, that kind of watercolory texture.
It's so important. I mean, it's so beautiful. It's interesting too, just choice of color. I mean, imagine if he did not have that paint swatch in the background, just what would be lost in the painting. It's amazing.
Yeah, that was one thing that he did that's pretty amazing, was just like he would decide to use these just like crazy colors, like pinks and stuff like that. But then you'd think, why is he using that color? But for some reason, it works really, really well.
Well, I was researching him more after we talked about it, and it seemed that he did make quite a good living in his day. He had a massive home, I think, in the 1800s, which is interesting because I think a lot of the artists for postcards, etc., toiled in obscurity. So
Yeah.
he made it to a celebrity status in his day.
Well, you got to think about during that time period, the stuff like Saturday Evening Post. Now I know that a lot of illustrators, like you said, toiled in, oblivion, but you know, that was like the mainstream type stuff, I mean, that was like their movies. I mean, they had movies, but not early, but that was the only way that people got their entertainment was from those types of things. I mean,
Very true.
that's the same thing with like, Sherlock Holmes and like the Strand magazine and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to sketch just to see if this might work using this body in your head. I don't know if it's going to work or not. We'll see.
Yeah, it might. I mean, it's altogether such an awkward pose that I think anything would work.
Yeah.
Thank you, Griffin. He has a TGIF. Thank God it's Fulton or for Fulton. That's nice. Has anyone ever ate at that restaurant, TGI Fridays, before?
I have many, many moons ago.
Yeah.
I'm trying to recall if I got some kind of stomach bug or something.
You know what's funny is my wife and I went there for like one of our first date kind of things back in 1997 when we were first starting to date, and then she got sick from TGI Fridays.
Oof.
That's funny you mentioned that. Can I work with Wayne Kenneth Preston next?
You don't want to work.
Someone wants to know.
You don't want to work with that guy.
Does he have an ego problem?
Yeah, he's a jerk.
I saw a photo of him and I thought he looked familiar.
Well, I don't know about that, but
he seemed very 80s though. Is he from the 80s or is he stuck in time or is he just a fan of that era?
both, all of the above.
I'd love to meet him. Would he be fun to drink with?
I don't know. I don't think he'd be fun to do anything with.
It's funny though about alter egos. I'm a big skateboard guy, and remember in the early 90s, Jeremy Klein, who's one of my best friends, he came out with a video part for Fred Brown. It was a skateboard part, and he was him wearing a wig and just doing all these terrible tricks, and they released a pro board for Fred Brown.
Oh,
and people were writing saying, "Who's Fred Brown? That guy sucks. I can't believe he's pro."
That's funny.
It was a cool idea. I mean, especially for back in the video days.
I mean, I don't know how that pertains to what we're talking about, but that's a pretty cool story.
I know. I agree. I don't. Sometimes I'm off topic, but I'm just kind of throwing things out there.
Yes.
Just like if you ever were going to do something like that, like maybe release like a separate playing card company or something like that.
Yeah. Do you want to have your Fender Stratocaster head?
Yeah, you know why is because Leo Fender was from my area. Leo Fender was from Fullerton, which was about 10 miles north, and he's buried in a cemetery where we have relatives buried, Fairhaven Cemetery in Santa Ana, California. Mm-hmm. His grave is very unmonumental for somebody who invented, the modern electric guitar. It's just a flat, stone with kind of a guitar on it. But Leo Fender is an amazing inventor.
Wow. I was speaking of grave sites. My parents are here visiting me, and there's a like a national cemetery here in Chattanooga. And my dad he'll like to go to like those national cemeteries when he gets a chance. And he said that I can't remember what his name was, but the guy that was in Hacksaw Ridge, the guy that was that conscientious objector during World War II and won the Congressional Medal of Honor.
I don't remember him.
Yeah, he was in that movie that Mel Gibson made, Hacksaw Ridge. Let me see what his name was.
Is the cemetery beautiful, like one of those old stately Southern cemeteries?
No, it's just it's a beautiful cemetery, but it's also it's got the really pretty, the the headstones all in a row. Let's see.
Oh, that like Arlington.
Yeah, based on the film focused war experience of Desmond Doss is his name, and he it's this guy right here. He was a Christian, but he consciously objected to using firearms but he didn't want to not join the army because he wanted to do his part. And so the entire, or at least what the movie says, I mean, I'm probably just saying things. I'm guessing it's pretty close to being accurate. But the entire time that he was there, he never picked up a gun. And he was a medic, and he ends up saving all kinds of people and getting the Medal of Honor without ever picking up a gun.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and his grave is in the Chattanooga military. My brain.
It'll warm up.
Yeah, she'll warm up. You just got to get the engine block going.
It's like your dad's old Mustang.
Oh yeah.
I love old cemeteries. One of my favorite cemeteries in America is in Memphis, Tennessee. Actually, is Elmwood. If you ever make it down there.
Well, who's in Elmwood? Is that where Elvis is at?
No, Elvis is at Graceland. He was buried in
right.
another cemetery in Memphis, but then he was exhumed and buried at Graceland. But Elmwood was designed when cemeteries were actually a place where you would take your family to have a picnic on Sunday. So it was designed, and it was so popular a destination. They had a trolley that ran from downtown Memphis to Elmwood, and you would have to get ticket vouchers to get inside the park because it was
crazy.
So backed up.
That's crazy.
I know.
All right, so
it's beautiful,
I think this is gonna work. I mean,
it looks so good.
We might as well just ship it right here. We're done. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we'll just do. I mean, Linedecker would. He would just say, "I'm out."
Yeah.
We'll drink some champagne.
So the one thing that Linedecker does that is always the hard thing for me is he does. It's really weird. It's kind of a paradox. He doesn't use a black line. But I'll probably end up using a little bit of black line just because that's what I do.
Oh, you're saying because of getting the creases and stuff, he's just using a darker value, but not going totally black.
Right. But I want to, the one thing that I'm probably going to heighten kind of that angularity.
Great. I love angular stuff.
Because, if I go back to Pinterest, let's see,
Does Pinterest make you subscribe? Because I always try to click on some image and it's like log in. I'm like, no thanks.
Possibly. Like some of the things that I really like about what he does. Let me try to find a good example. Like look at his pants. Just at how simple but yet to the point. All of the folds and stuff. Look at this guy's socks too. Come on, how awesome is that?
How fast do you think he worked?
I think that there was probably I bet that was Rockwell. I bet that he worked fast, but I bet he did a lot of, because if you go into his stuff, you can find like things like this, where it's just like a page of just tons of little paintings. I don't want to go to Twitter. So like, look at this. It's like he's doing all these studies. He's trying to paint the hands and getting every little aspect of whatever painting that he's working on. So I bet he worked fast, but at the same time, he just worked a lot of it. Look at this. Look at this bomber jacket, dude. And that looks like Patton's. That's Patton's Colt, and then his bomber jacket, and he's like practicing the hands and stuff. It's amazing.
Whoa, look at that. Look at the hands with the binoculars, like the grip he has.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It's funny too, because we identify that style as such an American style, but I believe Linedecker was born in Germany. It's kind of like apple pie, how it's the American pie, but it's from Germany.
Like here's another good example. You see.
Look at the expression though. Like you can see that guy kind of bawling.
Mm-hmm. Such.
You can look at his stuff all day.
Oh yeah, that's the thing I got to watch out is just not looking at it all day long.
Now, do you think he'd be a good teacher? Like if you sat down with him, or do you think he would just be like the classic artist who would be horrible at communicating and not want to teach you?
I don't know. I would hope that he would be a good one because he had so many, people like Rockwell and stuff after him. But it could have just been more of a, emulation type thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to redraw all this stuff. But then, and obviously the image that we've got is pretty low res. So in a way I kind of have to redraw all this is going to be my chance to like figure out how to do the wrinkles and stuff, because that's definitely something I want to nail right.
It's almost destiny. I had this kind of image and idea for so long, and then you had a goal of, achieving a certain thing, and then it's coming together. That's how life kind of is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what is the old saying about preparedness? Opportunity is preparedness, and opportunity or something.
I think it's like, it's something like that, where it's opportunity meets coincidence. I don't remember. It's preparedness meets opportunity or something. I don't know. Luck.
There's another great quote about, luck is half of life, I think. I don't know. Do you believe that?
No, I don't believe in luck at all.
I believe you make your own luck.
I think it's what you said. It's luck is preparedness meeting opportunity.
It's true. I mean, imagine somebody comes to you and says, hey, I've got this art opening. Do you want to apply for it? And you've just been sitting, smoking dope for 20 years. And you're like, screw it.
Yeah.
Do you know what Art Center College of Design is in Pasadena?
Oh, yeah. They were at least well known at one point. I don't know if they still are.
I don't think so anymore. I mean, I went there. I went there concurrently when I was at USC, and I studied graphics and typography. And the one thing I will say about the school, though, is that they knocked that out of you. Like, if you thought, I'm just going to be an artist and just kind of, kick around and look at stuff, it was like a military school. You had to have like 20 comps up on Monday. You had an evaluation. You would have people come in and look at it and say, nope, back to the drawing board. Then Friday, you would have another viewing.
That's good. I wish.
That's awesome.
My college career was a complete waste of my time. And I think that's one of the things that I wish I would have had more of is, well, first of all, they kept saying to me, you can't be an illustrator. You can't be an illustrator because that's not really a real artist.
That's really debatable.
Well, I don't think it's even debatable. I think an artist is whatever you want it to be.
Well, back in like the 1920s and 30s, there wasn't even such a major as commercial art or graphic design. It was just, painting, which they basically said you're never going to get paid for. And then there was something called like the commercial arts, which would just show you like layout comps for advertising.
Yeah.
And if you look at like the old manuals, it was basically like, if you're not helping somebody sell a product, you're just never going to be paid.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny. Some artists have a real thing like, oh, I'm not a commercial artist. I'm a fine artist.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird topic for sure. And I don't even know. And sometimes I don't even know how to really articulate my opinion on it.
Well, I mean, even fine artists, though, aspire to have something in a gallery and then sell paintings or prints, especially nowadays. So, I mean, what does it mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But what I was thinking back about Art Center was that they had a definite style. Like if you look at Leyendecker as a style, if you go in, like if you're in Los Angeles and you look at somebody's art, you can say, oh, you went to Art Center. Mm-hmm. They had like a definite style that they kind of taught, like a school style. And it's interesting how that works.
Yeah.
Did your school have a style? Did anyone there come out with a certain look?
No, it was a state school, and basically all of the professors were whatever you call them, like working artists, I guess you could say, and they were all
Sure.
like modern style painters, and so everything that they tried to do, that's one of the things that they didn't like. They didn't really like me that much because I was that illustrator that wanted to paint, you know, illustrations of like Lord of the Rings or comics or whatever. I wanted to illustrate. I didn't want to do abstract stuff, and they didn't like that. They didn't like that very much.
I think your school did a newspaper article about you. I read years back about how like you do playing cards now.
Yeah, it was like the little magazine that they produce.
They had a photo of you with like some cards, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Has anyone out there that's watching read that? It was pretty interesting. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Good looking, handsome devil here.
He's a rough guy. He's a tough guy that plays guitar.
That's right.
He's a Renaissance man. He smokes
Do you,
Chesterfields.
I was thinking about we could put the cigarette up in the guitar head like a lot of people do, like those rock stars do.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's like Slash. Remember when Slash? I don't know if he quit smoking, but he used to always have it in that
Oh yeah,
guitar head. I always thought it was so cool.
yeah.
When I was a kid, I was like, man, that's so rad. I want to play guitar and have a cigarette in the head.
Be like Slash.
I love Slash.
I love how
He's a great.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying he's a great guy. I mean, I have friends that have, fanned out on him, and he was just a cool guy to them.
Excuse me. My cough ain't even.
Or are you a Slash fan?
Yeah, I mean, I like Guns N' Roses. I mean, that's basically. I was a football player, and I grew up on that stuff.
Did you ever go to one of their concerts?
No. Mm-mm.
No, that must have been epic.
I've only been to a few concerts. I went to an Ozfest once back in early 2000s, and
what was it like?
It was actually really good. Ozzy was the second to last show, and the Metallica came out. And it was only the reason I went because I wanted to go see Metallica before I died, and it was in my home where I lived at the time, so I kind of had to go.
The Dallas area?
Yeah, it was Frisco. I just walked to the amphitheater that was the stadium that it was in was like walking distance from my house, and I just walked.
That's cool. Was Ozzy good?
Yeah, dude, he was great. It's so amazing that he can't barely string a sentence together, but when he starts singing, you're like, oh yeah, I can hear every word he's saying.
It's interesting too. It's like my wife was saying, she said, his accent is so thick, but then, a lot of English, when they sing, their accent goes away, or what we think of their accent, it disappears.
Well, I've always thought that too. Is like you have an artist who is English, and I was thinking about that too. It's just like, when they sing, their accent goes away.
I love Ozzy though. I mean, his guitarist actually in the '80s, I think, is one of the greatest guitarists of all time. Was Randy Rhodes, who died in that plane crash.
Yeah. And then who was?
Go back and listen to the live albums with Randy Rhodes, and you're like, "Are you kidding? Did a human?"
Was it Randy Rhodes or was it Tony Iommi or whatever his name was?
Tony Iommi was Black Sabbath. Randy Rhodes was
right.
for Ozzy.
Gotcha.
Randy Rhodes founded a band in high school called Quiet Riot. He was like a high school prodigy.
Randy Rhodes formed Quiet Riot?
He formed Quiet Riot. Randy Rhodes' mom was a guitar teacher and a piano teacher in Los Angeles, and she had been getting him lessons when he was a kid. And then one of the teachers, when he was like 13, said, "Mrs. Rhodes, please don't send Randy here anymore." And she said, "Is he causing trouble?" And he said, "No, I can't teach him anything. I mean, he's just too advanced."
Wow.
He's a cool guy, dude. I mean, what a terrible accident.
Yeah. He died in what? What did you say he died in?
Well, they were in Florida on tour, and then it was like late at night, and Randy Rhodes wasn't a drinking guy or a drug guy. He was just a chain smoker. And Ozzy's pilot or something was saying like, "Hey, let's go up in this little Cessna," and like, "I want to try to do it." And he was coked out of his mind. And Randy Rhodes hated flying, but he got talked into going into the plane, and the guy clipped a tree on cocaine, and it was over.
Isn't it weird how many famous music artists have died in plane crashes?
Yes, and then you have Stevie Ray Vaughan, in the helicopter in
Yeah,
Wisconsin.
Stevie Ray Vaughan. You got like what's this guy? Richie Valens. Not Richie Valens. The guy that sang.
Yeah, it is Richie Valens and Buddy Holly,
Yeah, Buddy
the
Holly
Big
and Richie
Bopper.
Valens together, right?
That's right. Remember the fateful coin flip. If you won the
Oh,
coin flip, you got to leave the snow and go into the plane.
and then who was the other coin flipper in that?
One
That
of the guys was, what's his name? Was it not Chris
Roy
Christopherson, but
Orbison.
one of those?
Was it Roy
No, it
Orbison?
wasn't. It was one of those guys. It was one of those guys. He became a country. He was a country star. It was not Waylon Jennings. It was someone like that, like a country guy,
Hmm.
I think. And he said that he always felt guilty his whole life. I love Buddy Holly. He's from your area.
Maybe it's the Big Bopper. Somebody said maybe the Big Bopper.
No, the Big Bopper died on the plane. It was the day the music died. It was
Oh,
Richie Valens, Buddy Holly, and that. It was I want to say it's like a Waylon Jennings type of guy.
gotcha.
Did you ever go to Buddy Holly's gravesite or his birth home in Lubbock?
I mean, I remember seeing all that stuff in Lubbock when I would visit there because I have lots of family still that live in Lubbock.
I wonder if your family knew the Hollies.
I doubt it.
You look at all that talent and how young he was gone.
Yeah,
I love Buddy Holly. Are you a fan?
I am.
I love Buddy Holly. He's so unique. He played like a 54, Stratocaster.
Mm-hmm. What's his face? What's that guy? What's that actor's name? It's not
Gary Busey.
Yeah, did he play Buddy Holly once?
And he did like the greatest job ever. My
Really?
mom still talks about that movie. My mom still says, I thought it was Buddy Holly.
Wow.
You ever seen the movie, The Buddy Holly Story?
Mm-mm.
Oh my God, you got to watch it. Busey is amazing. Busey's a Texan too. I mean, maybe he had a real passion for Buddy Holly. It's a great performance. Like you think of Gary Busey as like Point Break and this kind of overweight, kind of, insane guy. But you look back to the Buddy Holly story and you're like, wow, that's a dedicated actor.
He did a good job.
Oh, it's amazing. It's like Val Kilmer did a great job playing Jim Morrison as well.
Oh yeah, I do remember that.
That's a hard act to follow.
Just trying to get some of the.
Okay, so David Scott Will said it was Waylon Jennings. Yeah, okay, so I was right. It was Waylon Jennings who was on the runway.
Man, that's crazy.
It's almost one of those like fateful moments, like in one of those movies, like you meet what's it called?
Death.
Yeah, Beelzebub, or like remember the movie
Yeah.
Devil's Advocate, the retelling of what's the famous story? Where you sell your soul to the devil kind of thing. It's like one of those fateful moments where it's
Yeah.
like, are you going or not?
Yep.
It seems like we don't really have music stars like that anymore. I mean, there's just so much music out there. There's so many avenues. But back then, like a Buddy Holly or, Richie Valens, there was only that, you know, Dick Clark or not Dick Clark, Ed Sullivan or something.
Right.
It's like there was so few avenues. It's almost like playing cards. Like now there's so many cards come out.
Mm-hmm.
But you think about when like a new, I don't know, when like Russell Morgan and Dougherty and them were making cards, was it the same thing? Was there just tons of cards coming out?
Yeah, there were. I mean, when Russell Morgan and Dougherty were making playing cards were so readily available. There were just mountains and mountains of playing cards.
Do you think anybody back then ever had an argument about who liked Russell Morgan or Dougherty more?
Oh yeah,
Or do they care?
I bet.
I wonder the average time span people kept the playing card deck. Remember, you'd go to someone's house when you were a kid and they would be like, their parents would break out a playing card deck and the box was all taped back together. They had it
Yes.
since the 70s.
Yep.
It's fascinating. Who are you like? Who do you like more, the Russell Morgan or Dougherty?
I couldn't tell you, because I don't. I mean, I would probably say Dougherty because he did so many of those epic kind of iconic card designs.
He to me, he wrote the book just like Hitchcock kind of wrote the book of cinema. Like even if you're not trying to copy Hitchcock, you're still using the language he invented.
Mm-hmm.
just with editing and just storyboarding and just his ideas. It's like I feel that way about Dougherty. I feel that everybody, owes a big nod to him. Are you a Hitchcock fan?
I am. I like Hitchcock.
What's your favorite Hitchcock movie?
I think the one. What's the one? The South by Southwest. The one with the plane.
Oh, North by Northwest.
North by Northwest. Yeah. That one. I like that one. But
it's a great film.
But honestly, I haven't seen them in so long.
Vertigo? You ever see Vertigo?
I've seen Vertigo, yes.
What a crazy movie when you go back and look at it. The Obsession.
Yeah.
Rear Window, another great one.
Yes. And can you imagine just like, I wonder how those were received when they came out. Like,
I think those were like blockbusters. The movie, I think that like Psycho. I always say that if I could go back in time and see one movie before knowing about it, it would be Psycho. I mean, imagine going to a theater and seeing a cross-dressing Anthony Perkins run out with a knife. I mean, that's got to be the greatest moment in your life.
Yeah. And think about like, just what was it, like the 60s when they came out?
Yeah, 1960. That was right at the end of the 50s, the real naive, innocent era, and you get Hitchcock blowing open the 60s door with, Psycho.
Yeah, I was about to say like just how much, just the context of how what that kind of movie was like when it came out.
And he financed it himself because I think the studio wasn't going to finance it, so he used most of his TV crew from Hitchcock Presents, and he financed it himself, and it was a big gamble, and then he got 100% of those royalties back.
Wow. Good move.
Yeah, Hitchcock's daughter was a sponsor of my class at USC, and it was called Hitchcock in Film.
That's cool.
It's awesome, and she used to come and hang out with us, and her and his great-granddaughter was in my class, actually, and his granddaughter, Mary Stone, used to come and talk to us, and they were just like the coolest family. You were like, oh, I can't believe that they're this royalty. They were just so regular.
Yeah.
But I do remember one thing you'll like is that we had our professor who would give us all this theory, and he would say, Hitchcock shot in this church because of the symbolic background, and you could see a cross with the wood beams, and it signified the man's lost faith, etc. And so Pat Hitchcock comes in, and she's talking to us, and one of the kids in the class asks Pat, hey, Pat, can you talk about this theory, our professor's been telling us all semester and testing us on?
I can tell.
And Pat's sitting there, and she's like, you know why he chose that church? Because it was the closest to the hotel, and Daddy didn't like to be home past 5:30 because he needed his gin and a cigar. That's why we chose that church.
That's awesome. That's totally true. I mean, it's so true in probably so many different instances.
Oh, absolutely. But, professors got to get paid. So how do you get paid and not have that? Yeah, they were awesome. Her stories were just amazing. I remember someone brought up the whole fact with, remember Tippi Hedren, Melanie Griffith's mom? Mm-hmm. She was saying that Hitchcock ruined her career, and like, because she didn't want to do certain things in a movie. And so, she has a story that Hitch ruined her career. But anyways, Hitch found her like in a wintergreen gum commercial, or like spearmint gum.
Oh, man.
Commercial, and put her in The Birds.
Ah, yes.
And someone was asking Pat, like, what do you think about, your father? Did he ruin her career? And then she's like, I don't remember her having a career before Daddy put her in The Birds. I just remember her doing a gum commercial before Dad put her in 2 movies. So I don't know about that.
I just remember the gum. She didn't really have a career before.
Yeah, she was just the gum girl, and Daddy had a crush on her, and he put her in a movie. But that was about as far as it went.
Is that how she talked? She just called him Daddy or whatever.
Well, yeah, father or something like that. But the most interesting thing about Hitchcock was that his favorite movie of all time, Pat used to talk about how he used to come home and he used to love to watch Benji.
The 70s one?
Great film. And, yeah, the 70s one filmed in Denton and McKinney, Texas.
That's where I went to school. I remember my dad.
Probably recognize that area.
Because my dad also went to University of North Texas in Denton. And he said that.
Oh, your dad went there?
Mm-hmm. He played football there, and he played football with Mean Joe Green.
Sure.
But he said that when my dad was, I probably should save this. My dad said when he was in college, was about. I think it was about the time that they were shooting. Was that the early 70s?
Yeah, it was a 74, I believe.
Yeah, he'd been right at the tail end of his college career, but he said that he at least lived in Denton with my mom after he got out of college, and they said that he remembers them filming Benji there.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. I wonder, like, if he saw. I mean, back then they would have had a big filming crew for that. I mean, I still don't know how they got the dog to do that stuff. Did you ask your dad if he witnessed any of that?
No, I haven't asked him that specific stuff. What?
You had your dad stand on the side and give some treats to the dog.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
I feel like I remember my dad saying a story because my dad used to like work on like a road crew or something, and I remember him saying something about, "Oh, I put those, I planted those trees, and they're in that shot or whatever." Something like that. Some real random.
That's fascinating. Have you seen the movie since you were a kid?
Well, there's a new one that came out recently. Well, I don't know if recently is, but there's one that came out, and I remember talking to my girls about it, and I was like, "Hey, this is the original one." But if I remember correctly, the original's kind of, you look back on it now, it's kind of rough. Like, isn't there like a child abduction and all kinds of stuff?
You know what's funny is that's what I was just thinking. Is I showed my girls that movie, and I'm like, hold on, wait a second. They're kidnapping kids, holding them ransom with like these two guys, and then the babysitter is in on it.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody says in the chat, what modern directors do you like, Brad?
I would. Well, modern is kind of a difficult word. Maybe still living, I would have to say David Lynch. David Lynch is probably one of the most important artists of the last century, I would say. Blue Velvet is still, I think, maybe one of the top 3 masterpieces of film. I like David Lynch. I did enjoy Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood. I really loved that movie. I don't like many of his other films. John Carpenter, from my era, I went to USC Film School because John Carpenter did. John Carpenter, Halloween, of course, we know. The Fog, They Live, which is one of the awesomest movies ever.
Oh,
yeah,
They Live.
I'd say them. But are they modern or not? I mean, I'm old. I don't know. And they're modern to me, but Scorsese. I mean, The Irishman was great. People still say that it wasn't that great. I thought it was awesome. Did you see that, Jackson, The Irishman?
I did. I liked it.
What did you think?
I really liked it. But I liked it because I liked those movies for sure. I thought it was a little slow, but I really liked it.
People said it was slow and too long, but I wanted more. I just thought this is one of the last times you're ever going to get to see this stuff. When he's gone, who's going to do a film like that?
Yeah, nobody's gonna pay for that.
Yeah, I loved There Will Be Blood. There Will Be Blood was great. I actually saw There Will Be Blood with Dan Buck in a movie theater in Irvine. It was when the first iPhone had came out, and you could like buy tickets online, and it was like, what was that original wire? It's an amazing film. Unbelievable.
I'm sorry if I'm boring you by just drawing wrinkles.
Well, you should just draw them all over my face too. That's what I'm a little offended that you're not doing enough wrinkles on me. I've been smoking Chesterfields with Ronnie since the 60s at least.
Since Ronnie. I love it.
The Gipper.
The old Gipper.
Did you ever see that movie?
The Gipper?
Mm-hmm.
No.
What was the movie called? I forget what the movie's called. David Fincher is a good director, someone says. You know what? David Fincher, the first film of his I saw was actually Alien 3 in the movie theater when I was a kid. Is okay. David Fincher's a very talented guy, but the only movie of his I've ever liked was Zodiac. I thought Zodiac was a masterpiece of filmmaking. His other films I'm not a big fan of. I never liked Fight Club. I never understood the
love
of that film. You liked it?
Oh yeah, I did a what was it? This was in college, but I did a thesis, not really a thesis paper because that sounds way more grandiose than anything I did in college. It was like an end of year research paper. And I did a research paper comparing Fight Club with the life and story of Jesus Christ. Um,
Oh, that's interesting.
because just hang with me for like 2 seconds. So you have the Tyler Durden, you have the Tyler Durden character, right?
Right.
Then he creates, he goes around teaching people that in order to do anything or in order to be free, you kind of have to lose everything and kind of start from the bottom. That's the same thing that Tyler Durden talks about in the movie. And then all this, and then he gets all these followers, aka disciples, and then he ends up dying. He ends up dying at the end, and then I'm giving a very brief kind of what I wrote about. But then at the very end, you have all those credit card companies. Well, you have all the disciples, and you have all the people that are in his gang. And the scenes where they're like planning to blow up the credit card buildings in the end.
I do.
But there's like this meeting room, and there are these folders on the walls of all of the credit card buildings. And there's 7 credit card buildings, and in the New Testament there's 7 churches. And so these credit card buildings were the 7 churches that the disciples would have ended up going out to. And that's how the church started after the death of Jesus. Was they went out and formed these 7 churches in these 7 cities, and that's how kind of the freedom of these people started in the Fight Club, as they were starting everything from zero by destroying these 7 credit card company buildings. That was my short version.
Do you think the writer was inspired by that? I mean,
I don't know.
A lot of films are inspired by the Bible story as well.
Maybe, but that's at least something that I got. A connection that I made just by some of the things that were happening in the movie.
It's fascinating though. You wonder if it's like a universal archetypal story, maybe that we all tap into, or if it really was inspired by that. It's fascinating. I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
Someone else said Quentin Tarantino is a great director. I like one movie he did. It was a Jackie Brown. I think that was his greatest film. It's the only one I ever really absolutely loved. It was also filmed at one of my childhood malls, the Del Amo Fashion Square.
I love all those names of places in California. It's like
the Fashion Square,
the Del Amo Fashion Square, and like it's a concrete strip mall or something.
It was the largest shopping mall in the world in its day. It was connected by a bridge.
Oh, wow.
The one thing about California that's funny, though, is that it has the perfect weather. It has the beach, the mountains, but then you need lots of malls. You need to spend your time indoors, because if it gets over 75, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, over 75, then they would things would break down or whatever.
Yeah, I remember they used to have it on the news. Be careful driving out there today. It's a torrential rain, and then you'd get like that 0.3 inches, for the month, and you'd be like, no, that was crazy. It was like when I first moved to Texas, we had this hailstorm, and I saw the stuff coming down, and I'm like, can that break my window? I had no idea. I'm like, could that hit a window?
Dude, I was probably, let me see. At this time, I'm probably 8, 9, 10 years old. And I'm sitting there in my living room. It's night. I'm playing Tecmo Bowl or something like that. And
oh, I love Tecmo Bowl. Bo Jackson all the way.
Yeah, Bo Jackson all the day. And then and then I'm playing Tecmo Bowl, and there's a thunderstorm, right? I mean, a big one. And it wasn't anything new to me, because thunderstorm was, we lived right in the middle of Tornado Alley, and that was just something that happened all the time. Were those kind of things. And I remember it started hailing, which didn't just surprise me, because it always hailed. But then we had a skylight right in our living room, and right as I'm playing Tecmo Bowl, this literally softball size hail thing crashes through the skylight and then lands right in my lap.
Are you kidding?
Oh yeah, I thought it was the coolest thing.
But why would you have a skylight in Tornado Alley?
I don't know.
Just living dangerously?
Yeah. We were like, well, we need to put a skylight up here. We got to live dangerously, people.
Man, that is crazy. Did you have a lot of like windshield damage?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure that my parents had their cars in the garage at the time.
Um, so what's up with the cultural thing where Texans don't park in the garage? They park in the driveway.
Well, because they probably got too much junk in their garage to park in it.
I was waiting for you to say that.
That's why I don't have. That's why I don't park in my garage. I got too much. My kids use it as like their little playground.
Wait. You don't park in your garage either?
No, I don't.
See, it's like my wife will say, she'll be like, "Hey, how come Jeff's parked in the driveway? You know, and like their garage is clean, but it's just like they leave their garage open all day.
Hmm.
They park in the driveway, and someone just said, well, it's so we can drink beer in the garage."
Yeah. Well, yeah, because especially like during the summer, if you don't have a porch, you know, you got to have some place that's shady, and sometimes the garage is the only place you got that's shady.
That's interesting.
Yeah, you've been there though during the summer when it's hot,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah. It doesn't really bother me that much. I mean, I don't know. I deal with heat pretty well. I think my wife just can't stand it, but I
Mm.
think it's pretty good.
Yeah,
Well,
your
what about you?
wife,
Are
your
you?
your wife loves Austin, right?
No. No. She thinks it's a little bit. Well, you know, she said to me, "Hey, you know, we want to go to a museum. Oh wait, we have to drive to Fort Worth. Oh wait, want to go to the zoo? Well, you got to drive to Fort Worth."
Yeah, yeah. What were you gonna say about heat?
Do you deal with heat okay?
I did, I do. I think I deal with heat pretty well. It's interesting that when I grew up, it got pretty cold, and it snowed and iced and stuff in where I grew up in Texas in the high plains.
Did it snow every year though?
Oh yeah, every year.
Like
Um,
how many inches though?
I don't know, 3, 4 feet. I don't know, a lot.
Wait, that much?
Oh yeah. Let me see.
I didn't know
It's
that.
probably not that much. I'm probably exaggerating it. Let me see. Average snowfall of Canyon, Texas, America, 15 inches. But still,
Wow.
that's still a
I had
lot,
no
though.
idea.
The average snowfall in Austin's like, not this year, but, it's like an inch maybe.
I think the old Austinites, they'll always tell you that it snows every 4 years. You get a dusting every 4 years is the average.
Hmm. And I remember it snowed I remember when we lived there. That's probably right. I remember when we lived in the house where we lived out in the country there, it snowed once, like where I remember it being, on the ground, enough to be on the ground kind of thing.
So it did always melt.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It never stayed around for very long. It's just as the ground wasn't cold enough.
What about driving in ice? Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that because in Canyon where I grew up, it would always ice. And, you know, they didn't really cancel school that much. They
Is it
did.
true that a four-wheel drive is better for that?
Oh yeah, for sure. But like in Austin, you dust the road and they're calling cancel. They're just canceling school,
Oh, absolutely.
which is okay with me. If I never had any kids in school, but if I was in school, I'd be okay with that.
How awesome was that when you got school canceled as a
Oh,
kid? It's like the
bro.
things you looked forward to.
Oh yeah, I remember, dude. One of the greatest moments of my childhood was it was on Halloween Day, and it snowed like 10 inches on Halloween Day, and I remember them canceling school on Halloween, and I was like calling my buddies or what. I don't think I called my buddies. I just went over to their house. Let's go, guys. School's canceled. It's Halloween. We're gonna do this.
What did you guys do in the day?
We just did the same thing we did every day. If we weren't in school, we just left the house and just rode our bike around the city like a rabble and just did whatever for the entire day. And when it was snow, we'd walk down to the overpasses, and we'd take our sleds and we would just sled down the overpasses, the hills.
Wait, down to the road?
If you're because you have to think about where I grew up, that there's no topography, it's just flat, and so
Sure.
the only places that were hills were overpasses, and so you'd go to the overpass and those kind of like grassy slopes on the side of overpasses.
Oh yeah, but it goes down to a road though.
Yeah, as we just did that. And
See,
usually,
that's why
usually,
Texas is great.
oh yeah, and usually we would, um, there was usually like a ditch or something that was in between the road. I mean, we weren't completely vagrant in the middle of the road, somewhat, but
Do you talk to any of the kids that you did that with?
oh yeah, mm-hmm, yeah. I did a deck collaboration with some friends of mine. They own an oil company, and I did a deck for their oil company just this last year. And one of the guys that owns that company, Cody, he was one of those. He was one of the kids that I would do that with.
How
Because he lived.
crazy is that though to say that your friends own an oil company?
Oh yeah, it's crazy. I mean, because he lived. He was this kind of. You know, we lived. We lived. He lived across the street from me, and I remember going to his house, and we would. We'd ride bikes, and we'd make little slot cars and all kinds of fun stuff.
Well, you told me that no, they weren't wealthy, but they did have a Super Nintendo when we only had the NES.
Yes, that was wealthy. That was wealthy to me. or like the Sega. I had an 8-bit Nintendo NES, and I was like, oh man, you can go play Street Fighter at his house.
Altered Beast.
Altered Beast. Oh my gosh, I gotta look
That game
up.
like blew me away as a kid, and then I played it again recently, and I'm like, how was I that easily amused?
Let me see. Altered Beast. Oh my gosh, I remember that show, dude. I mean, I remember that game.
The logo was awesome.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that opening. That opening. That was on the Genesis, right?
Yes, it was. That was what they launched with was Altered Beast.
That's right. Because I remember like that opening screen where they showed all the beasts. You remember this? Remember this? Oh, dude, what great times! Remember that where
I know.
he's just jacked, and this guy was throwing like heads at you.
Wait, an Altered Beast?
Yeah,
I don't remember that. I just remember walking around with the beast slugging people.
yeah. His big arms, and you kept getting bigger,
Yes,
and those like big kicks, like he'd kick you, you'd kick. What a
that's a great game.
what a great time in the history of the world.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look at that. It's like a Roman kind of runes.
Yeah, yeah.
So awesome. Do you remember this game, TurboGrafx 16? Remember that system?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Bonk's Adventure. Yeah, look at the. That's what you're talking about. Look at the title screen.
Yes.
That's so awesome. I love the logo for Genesis. I just never liked the system as much as the Nintendo stuff.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the go-to game that we would always play, my brother and I. I think it was called Super Dodgeball. Do you remember that game?
On
NES.
Nintendo.
On NES, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I think I had it on an emulator as well recently and played it again.
Yep. And I remember
It's fun.
in the last stage was China, and you'd have to fight China to win.
Would
And
they win?
well, I mean, you win if you beat the game.
But it wasn't like Tecmo Bowl where it was like a loaded gun. I mean, if anybody picked the Raiders and you gave Bo Jackson the ball, he was the only one that had a different skill,
I remember
right?
that. Oh yeah,
I
you
mean,
would
I used
just
to play with the Raiders not because I'm a Raiders fan, but just because they were like I like the colors. They were black and they had the black jerseys and stuff, and they were from LA. So I played with the Raiders and I'd beat my friends. And then recently you look up the whole cult of Tecmo Bowl.
oh yeah, you'd slay with the Raiders in Techno Bowl.
Did you play with them?
Oh yeah, you would you. That's what you tried to do is try to pick the Raiders first.
I know. I remember when the Raiders came to LA. I just remember hearing old people saying, "There's someone stabbed at the Coliseum again. It's those damn Raiders." And then 2 years later, they were out. They were out of LA.
Oh really? Wow.
Oh, dude, they bring a fan base. I mean, it's like I've had friends that are Raiders fans, and it's funny because in my old neighborhood in Oceanside, California, there was like the whole neighborhood was really well manicured. And then there was one house where like the mailbox was tipping over, and they've never put a grass in, and it looked like it was going to cave in. And then they had a Raiders mailbox, and I used to show my friends. I'd be like, "Look at that! That's a Raiders house."
Now, I'm guessing the Raider fans are like Cowboy fans probably a lot.
No, because the Cowboys are more acceptable with being like mainstream and they're like the winning team. Like we're America's team, we always win. The Raiders, I think, almost want them to lose because they love the identification with the underdog.
Really?
Oh yeah, they love it. They're like, life has stepped on me, and this is my team, and this is us.
Yeah. No, I remember. I mean, I think C Dub was saying something in the chat. I remember just like with Bo Jackson, you could go down to like the 1 yard line. You could run, you know, like 101, 101 yard kickoff return, and then you'd run down to the 1 yard line. You could turn around, and go back all the way back to the other end of the field, and come back again.
It's true. I love Bo Jackson too in real life, as a player. What a great athlete.
Yeah. I'm gonna add some
You know,
line because I like line, and can do what I want. So
it looks great.
it's coming.
It looks amazing.
It's getting there.
That guy, I don't like the guy's face. That's the only part I don't like of it, but it's good.
It's all good. I think it's gonna be good.
Oh, it's freaking amazing, dude.
What I'm gonna try to do is like a Leyendecker Robinson engraving mashup.
Well, why not? It's not like the head of King's Wild's going to call you and tell you to stop drawing.
Yeah, exactly. Heard he's a jerk.
You know what's funny is my friend was a welder, and he did like a lot of roll cages for race cars and stuff. And there was an old Filipino man who built like custom, like kids houses, like kind of forts outside. What were they called?
Forts?
Like
Playhouses?
Like, not playhouses. That's right. He built like custom playhouses for like celebrities and stuff, and he would deliver them and stuff. And so my friend had just started his business, and the older guy came over one day and he said, "Let me just give you a piece of advice. When you work for someone else, you watch the clock. When you work for yourself, the clock watches you."
I remember you saying that to me before. I like that.
Yeah, it's a great. It was just like I was like so young. I was like my 20s, and I'm like, what the heck's this guy talking about? And now that it's true. It's the reality of life. It's like when you want to wake up in the morning. Like I could not sleep last night. I'm like, I get to talk to Jackson, and we get to see this ad card come to life. You've been thinking about this idea for 2 years, and it's just you want to live a life where you want to wake up.
Yes.
That's the main point, is that, like I was telling my daughter, about we were hearing these kids in our neighborhood talk about school, and oh, I got school again. I can't wait till Friday. So I told my daughter, I said, if I were selling you a bag of candy and I told you that 5/7 of the candy were going to be terrible, would you buy the bag?
Mm.
And she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, a lot of these kids are saying that 5 out of their days of the week are terrible.
Yeah.
They don't want to be in school. They just look for 2. So would you buy that bag of candy? My daughter's like, no way. Who would buy that bag, Dad? Who the heck would buy that? You'd have to be an idiot. And I'm like, well,
I think the same thing could be said with like, what you do for a job. I mean, think about how much people will stay at a job because that's what you did. Like,
absolutely.
You stayed at a job for this many years, or 5/7 of the candy bag, And
I understand that, you don't really have a choice. And a lot of times, I mean, it's like your dad, when he was working on a road crew, I'm sure he didn't wake up and say, I can't wait to plant trees that are going to be in Benji.
Yeah. I mean, I've had those jobs. But then he also said, I
got to feed that Jackson kid so he can draw someday.
Well, that was way before my time, but yes.
And your dad became a teacher, right?
Mm-hmm. He's a teacher and a football coach.
Did he like teaching?
I don't know. Maybe.
I always think back to my schooling and how few teachers really cared, or took an interest.
Yeah, I taught for 6 months. Worst 6 months of my life. I taught high school art.
Oh, wait, what did you teach?
High school art.
You would be great, though.
Oh, I hated it.
You would be an impactful. You might have hated it, but I think you'd be a positive, impactful person. I did have some great teachers that I really liked a lot, but I'm just saying in general, I think that I don't really have that many meaningful interactions in the 18 years I was in public school.
Yeah.
Also, it varied so much. Like when I was in senior year, we moved to like a real kind of bad neighborhood. And I went to the school and they gave me the books we were reading. And I told the lady, I'm like, I read these in 7th grade. And
Oh
she's like,
man.
what do you mean? These are senior level. And I'm like, I read these like 6 years ago. Do I have to read them? And she's like, well, you can just be an office attendant. I'm like,
Oh,
okay. So they gave me a period where I just like, my job was the teachers were afraid to go into this room to get their books and materials for the day because there were so many roaches in it. So they would have me go in the morning, turn on the lights, and then kick the boxes to get rid of the roaches. This is
that's
true.
awesome.
It was like a horror movie. It's like you'd walk in and kick a box and 40 roaches would come out.
Oh man.
And we still had typewriters. There was no computers at this school. And this was like 96,
Mhm.
97.
That's crazy.
That was Valley High School, Santa Ana, California. If you ever want to go there, you can drive by this high school. And I think they were bringing in metal detectors. And one day I had like a remember that brand Nautica?
Oh yeah, bro. Nautica, man. That's where you arrived.
I think I never liked logos on shirts, but I had like a little embroidery of Nautica, like that I had bought at Marshall's because it was cheap or something. And I went to school and they're like, you got to flip it inside out. And I'm like, why? They're like, no logos here.
Really?
Yep, no logos. It could have incited a riot there. Like someone would have cared, but that's what it was.
Then you have the I remember Jabot. Remember Jabot?
Oh yeah, yeah. Marate and
Martin
Francois
Francois Jabot.
That's so funny. Jabot jeans. You'd hear people talk about that.
Yeah.
Now, were you into that? Were you a fashion? You don't seem like you'd be a fashion guy.
I don't know. I remember I do remember trying to get some Jabot jeans, but do you remember like in the 90s when overall shorts were popular?
Wait. Yes, Guess jeans. And
Yes.
you'd wear one strap up and one
Yep.
down.
Yep.
Oh, dude, I had a pair. I don't want to talk about it, but I had a pair of them.
I had a pair of them too, man. I'd rock that strap down like a boss.
Same here, dude. And then Guess jeans just had those striped shirts that were like red and white striped and with the embroidery in the middle.
Yeah.
Guess jeans USA.
Yep. And the Tommy
Someone said
Hilfiger.
British. Oh yeah, Tommy Hilfiger. That was more high school, I think, for me.
Yeah.
Probably middle school for you. Probably high school for me was the thing. And then there's of course polo. People would like a lot of
Yep.
kids in my school got really into stealing, and they'd be like, "We racked this polo jacket." That was the term rack
Yeah.
to steal. We racked a polo jacket and all this good stuff.
I remember that what was it? CK1, that cologne, the CK1 cologne, Calvin Klein's.
Oh yes. And then Kate Moss was the model for that ad campaign.
Oh,
CK1. I remember going to Tower Records in Costa Mesa, California, to buy tickets to a Morrissey concert, actually at the Bren Center in Irvine, and they had all this CK1 samples, and I got one, and I'm like, this is so rad, getting a sample of this stuff.
oh man, you'd arrived, huh?
Oh, absolutely, dude. That was a great time, though. I before the internet, it was exciting to go to stores. You never knew what you were
yeah.
gonna get.
I remember going to I mean, that's when like shopping malls were actually cool.
What was your mall called?
My mall, it was either called Westgate or Western Plaza.
Is it still there?
Oh yeah.
Is it like really decrepit now?
I want to say no. I mean, I still think it's the main mall. They haven't like built a new mall.
Is it in Amarillo or is it actually in Canyon?
No, there's no mall in Canyon. Yeah.
That's funny. It'd be cool to go back to. We should both go to your hometown and do like a walkthrough of your mall.
That's what we should do. That seems like riveting cinema.
Oh, I love it, dude. I love that stuff.
All right, here,
I'm
if you look over to the left, this is where the J. Riggins store was. That's where I used to go to a lot.
This is where I bought my first pair of coveralls.
Yes. This is the Eddie Bauer store. This is what you go here to buy your clothes for the Valentine's dance, and
Yeah, well, Eddie Bauer is pretty cool, man. I like their like rain jackets.
yes, I used to like their watches for some reason.
Someone just mentioned Merry Go Round. I remember that store, Merry Go Round.
Yeah. What other stores were there when we were kids? Remember Gadzooks? That was ridiculous.
I don't remember that. Maybe they didn't have them out west.
I think Gadzooks was like the one step up in class Spencer's.
Oh, yeah, Spencer's. I remember there was always like that bad area in the back where your parents would be like, "Don't go in there."
It's now where the Hot Topic is.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's like Hot Topic. I never got into that whole scene.
What? You seem kind of like a Hot Topic guy.
No, I really did not like Hot Topic. It just looked too messy for me. I like order, and when I would go in there, it was just too messy,
Mm.
too punk. But I do remember when I was in like third grade or second grade, we were driving our car, and there was a girl walking down the street, and she had like, you remember the mod look? Remember like the
Yeah.
'80s mod look? And she looked like Lydia from Beetlejuice, and she had the
Okay.
black hair with the
Lydia.
bangs, and like, yeah, she looked so cool. I just remember looking at her and saying like, that girl looks so awesome. And my mom's like, she's a mod, and I'm like,
Oh,
oh, what's a mod?
Lydia from Beetlejuice.
I loved Lydia. I still do. I still love that movie, and I watch it, and I'm like, man, where's Lydia now?
I thought Beetlejuice was really good. I liked it. I remember,
I love that.
and I look at it now, and I'm like, how in the heck did my parents let me watch this when I was a kid?
You think so? I don't know. My kids watch it all the time. I think that's like such a great movie
Yeah,
still.
I mean, there's so many things that I watched when I was a kid that are completely innocent when I was a kid, or I thought were completely innocent when I was a kid that I would not let my kids watch now.
Well, the wedding scene is creepy. That's what creeps kids out. Is remember like when they're resurrecting them and then like they're
Yes.
crumbling.
Yeah.
That's the only scene in the movie that I kind of think like, okay.
I can't watch. I can't like watch. I can't let my watch. Oh my gosh, I can't talk, bro. My coffee. Like Sandlot. I can't let my kids watch Sandlot.
Sandlot I've watched a couple times. I don't remember anything really bad. But
Well,
look
there's
at
a
that
lot
brush.
of,
That looks great.
huh?
That brush looks great.
Yeah, it's a fun little brush.
And what was bad in Sandlot?
Just some of the sexual innuendos, that kind of stuff.
Maybe I'm gonna watch it again. I never loved the Sandlot. I mean, I like it because even though it's filmed in Salt Lake City, that is not Los Angeles. I I like the Dodger element. I think they were Dodgers fans, and I thought, oh, this is a cool movie. But my kids hated it. I mean, I have girls like you do, and they watched it, and they're like, who would watch this? So boring.
Yeah, I don't think that my girls would like it either.
My kids, I mean, even if someone was getting killed in the movie, they wouldn't know. They were just so out of it.
Mm.
I thought Sandlot was okay though. I like the way it looks. Maybe it had like kind of like a dark story about like the kid's dad, right? Didn't the kid have a bad father?
Well, that or I can't remember. His stepfather was no. I
Yes,
remember there was a bad relationship in the beginning, but I think
yes,
that towards the end it kind of got mended because he loses his baseball, the signed Babe Ruth baseball, but then he goes to who I think was Hank Aaron. You know, the James Earl Jones character I think was Hank Aaron in the movie,
right.
and he gets that, that other signed baseball that's like Babe Ruth plus all the Yankees.
Well, that's interesting. I forgot about the James Earl Jones character. I just think about the dog in that movie.
The Beast.
It's so distracting, like the story point.
Yeah, I love that dog, the Beast.
Did you get into Sandlot?
I loved Sandlot.
So you'd go to Dodgers games, like, even 10 years ago, and everybody there would have a shirt like "You're killing me, Smalls" or some,
Yeah,
some line from the movie.
yeah. See, when I grew up, we were in Texas. The Rangers were like our Dodgers.
They're a great team. They had Nolan Ryan.
And I remember we went to my dad took us to Arlington before they had that new stadium, and we watched. I don't think that Ryan pitched at the time that we were there, but we went and watched him. I remember that experience. It was awesome.
Did you ever see the video of Robin Ventura rushing the mound to
Oh,
fight Nolan Ryan?
when he headlocks him, bro, that's like
Yes.
that's like if you grow up in Texas, like that's a canon image that you have to know what it is. And like, all right, you're from Texas, you need to watch this. This is our mentality and learn it. Kind of a thing.
That was an absolute idiotic rush by Robin Ventura. Like Nolan Ryan would ever be trying to throw at somebody, like, in that game, in that instance.
Yeah, I mean, Nolan Ryan could put it wherever he wanted to.
When he's like right now, he can probably put it where he wants to. I mean, he
Oh,
pitched
man.
till he's like what, 47?
Yeah, and he was good.
Absolutely. I love Nolan Ryan. He owns part of the Round Rock Express minor league baseball team here.
Yeah.
He owns actually a meat store, I think,
Yep.
now in Round Rock
Mm-hmm.
where he sells something. You never hear a bad Nolan Ryan story though.
Nope.
You know what's funny is my buddy, he's an artist, Crayola, Greg Simpkins, and he's recently doing Tops playing cards is doing top 70, where they're hiring different artists to like kind of reimagine a classic playing card. You seen that? Like I don't know, they're picking this random artist and they're having him like, so he got they gave him Roger Clemens.
Wow.
And he painted like an octopus in the background and stuff. It's cool. I think it went on sale today. But I was like, so I texted Greg and I'm like, hey, did you pick Roger Clemens or did they give it to you? And he's like, no, they gave me like 20 characters to 20 baseball players to do. And I'm like, oh, okay. Cause I was going to say my memory of Roger Clemens was going to an Anaheim Angels game and like, during the Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa home run chase thing. Well, they had the Yankees versus the Anaheim Angels, and I went to see it. And Roger Clemens was playing for the Yankees, and we were sitting right behind the bullpen, and he was warming up in the bullpen. And these like little kids were there, and they're like, "Roger Clemens, you're our hero. Can we please have an autograph?" And he just ignored them. And then finally, they're like, "Sir, we're a big fan." And he just turns around and stared at them, and he said, "Blank off."
Oh man.
Like right to them. And I was telling Greg the story, and he's like, yeah, I didn't pick him, but good to know. I should how could you do that? I mean, could you imagine?
Yeah, I don't know.
Could you imagine making $100 million and telling some kids to get lost? I mean, it's nuts.
Especially like when what you do is like the inspiration in their lives.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, roid rage. That's true. That's all those guys back then. It's funny too, because I'd like watch the pictures and I would even comment to my wife. I'm like, I don't remember Kevin Brown having like Schwarzenegger sized biceps. I never even thought of steroids. I'm like, man, he's really been working out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, wow, dude, he's big. And then you'd look at like Greg Maddux, who was like just kind of like pudgy and small, and you'd be like, yeah, he needs to start working out too. Oh wait, he wasn't juicing up.
Yeah. Well, I remember when Mark McGwire in the early days, he was a little guy.
Absolutely, dude. You know what? When I worked at the Apple store in 2003, Mark McGwire came in and he had a Gucci backpack on. He was wearing like, shorts and a t-shirt, and he had like a Gucci leather backpack. And I rang him up for like some, like maybe McAfee virus protection or some software. He was super nice, but he was, just almost my height. I mean, I think he was listed as 6'5". I don't think he was. I think he's maybe like 6'3.5", 6'4". But if you looked at his body, his shoulders were super narrow, and it looked like you had stuck prime rib like onto his neck and shoulders. Like it wasn't naturally growing out of him. It was almost like meat placement.
Yes, meat placement. I love that.
It was totally abnormal, dude. Like you could see it from a mile away in person because his waist and his frame is very small, and then he just had these giant, slabs of beef on him.
Slabs of beef.
Absolutely, dude. It was, but what do you think about that? Is that cheating?
Well, I mean, this is probably a larger topic. I don't know. It's tough. Because, well, I guess I'm coming from a standpoint of I don't really like sports now anyways.
Sure. I mean, I get it. I don't like a lot of it either, but it's an interesting idea.
I mean, there's the part of me that's like, sports are entertainment, and that's what they are. And the gladiatorial spectator in me is like, hey, let's see how let's just see how far the human body can go, and let's let these guys go at it, do whatever they want, because I want to see just like the top peak physical performance.
It makes sense.
It's just like Olympic weightlifting, right? You've got these Russians and these Bulgarians and Hungarians or whatever that just dominate, and it's just like how do they do it without, because the U.S. people can never compete in that kind of stuff. Because I followed Olympic weightlifting a little bit because I thought it was interesting, and it's just like there's no way for them to compete. I don't know. I think it's a lot.
Is there anybody in Olympic weightlifting who doesn't take some kind of enhancement?
In other countries, yeah. Well, that competes any that breaks any kind of like records, maybe.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You remember Ken Griffey Jr.?
Yep.
I was watching an interview with him recently, and they asked him about the '90s juicing era, and he said, of course, he never did. And they asked him, "Do you regret it? Like you could have broke, Hank Aaron's record," and he said, "No, because I can go anywhere. I can go anywhere at any time, and someone can bring their kid to me, and I can sign that autograph with a clear conscience.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
no,
Yep.
I can't. I can be a role model, and I don't regret anything. And I just know that my dad told me, take care of you, take care of your family, and always be an upstanding citizen."
Yeah.
So, and
That's
then
good.
they said, "Are you mad about it, that other people broke the record?" And he said, "No, it has nothing to do with me. I can only control myself."
Yeah. That's good. That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, I'm more of a purist. I mean, I am a big baseball fan. I don't like it. I don't like. I mean, look at now. I mean, now the science behind people are manufacturing like a sticky substance, which is like pine tar or
Yeah.
something that goes on pitchers' fingers, so they can release the ball later, and then you get the RPMs up. The rotations per minute.
Yeah.
And Major League Baseball knows. I mean, they know about this, but
Yeah.
it's like you say, they want to see it too. They want to see it, how far it goes and how much viewership it gets.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, what was the old thing about Tiger Woods? They said he had like a LASIK correction and his eyesight is so much better than other people. I mean, is that really going to help you, dude? Like, I could have 20/20 vision. I cannot compete with Tiger Woods.
Yeah. I mean, there's an element that you can't detract of just pure practice and just hours.
Absolutely.
Because the guy that's scrapping about, the guy that's the guy that's scrapping about Tiger Woods's eyesight while he's typing that article, Tiger Woods is on the driving range.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely true.
What are we going to put? This is not anywhere close to being finished. What are we going to put the words?
I don't know. I think we shouldn't have any words up in the orange. I think we should just leave it, let the empty space speak.
Speak. Well, here's the thing. I feel like that they made this big orange blob. They created that knowing that they put words in there. I think it kind of is part of it. It's one of the reasons why that shape works. That's just
I think the shape works better without the writing. I think it just looks so much more painterly, Jackson. I think it looks more like poetry.
Mm-hmm. 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 All right. Okay. Let me see.
We'll have to have text on the bottom. We have to be advertising something.
Yeah, we have to advertise something.
We have to make it commercial art and not fine art.
That's correct. We have to make it commercial art.
So, like art, okay? Like, what if is coffee an enhancer then? Where does the argument go then? If you don't have your coffee, are you off your game or something?
Well, I mean,
where does it end?
I think there's validity to that into a standpoint because I think that so many people, I think it's all in the, I don't know. I mean, it's a broader topic, but it's kind of a thing of like, what's to say that that's not, because you're intaking some kind of substance that's altering the way that your body works,
Yes.
I mean, yes, it may not be as detrimental, it may not be as addictive, but there is a certain element to it, I mean,
what about LSD and Jimi Hendrix or something? You know what I mean?
That's the part of me that's like, let's let them do it and see what happens. That's
the Texan though. That's the deregulator in you.
Yeah, that is a deregulator. But it's kind of a thing of like, you want to deregulate, but you want to make not equality of outcome, but equality of just make it a level playing field, and then just see who rises to the top. Like, let's say, yeah, let's let them take steroids. Let's let them take LSD. Let's see what kind of art we can produce. Let's see what's the great. As long as as long as they're not killing somebody or hurting somebody. I mean, they may be killing themselves, but I don't know.
Well, what do they call that? They call it the 27 Club. Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison, Kurt Cobain, Janis Joplin. I think they're all gone at 27.
Yeah. I mean, there's the price. It's like the whole bright star. The brightest stars burn fastest. I mean, there's always no matter what you're gonna have, no matter what your decision is, you're gonna have consequences. Whether the society says what you're choosing is good or bad, you're gonna have consequences either way. You
Very
know,
true.
and if you choose not to do it, you're going to have consequences. And if you choose to do it, you're going to have consequences. And I think a lot of I think the biggest problem is that, I think this is starting to get a little philosophical, but, I think the biggest problem is, no matter what that decision is, good or bad, it's the aftermath and the consequences that people don't want to take responsibility for, I don't know if that makes sense.
Did a lot of kids in your school get involved in drugs? Was that a big thing in West Texas?
It wasn't more drugs as it was alcohol, I think, in my schools growing up. But I was also pretty sheltered, and I hate sports now, but I think that because I played sports so much was a big, because sports, church, and art was a big saving grace for me because I just liked doing that stuff so much that I spent most of my time either drawing, playing, or football practice or something. See, I'm making your face all nice and painterly.
I think it's just so beautiful. Can you please come over in real life and maybe paint me?
Just kind of take my pen stylus and scrub your face with it and maybe make your face painterly.
It's just so beautiful. I've never liked my face this much, Jackson.
I love your face. It's so.
I was
so
going to go under
inviting.
the knife this week, Jackson, but you've totally changed my opinion on myself.
That's good. I'm here.
I'm a low self-esteem person.
I'm here for you.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad it's a psychological experience, Jackson.
What else could we talk about, man? We were get deep.
Oh, I'll tell my only story about drug use before we get off the topic completely.
Okay.
I was in 9th grade in Vista, California at Rancho Buena Vista High School, and I remember a kid I was friends with named Richie G. I won't say his last name. And we went on a little field trip to this little kind of, I guess you'd call it a pond. It was more like a swamp. It was like in a park. And we were going to test the water to see the algae content. It was a big, science experiment in 9th grade. I was like 14 or 15. And we were walking over and I was hanging with Richie and he's like, hey man, let's go over here, and cut away from the group and go in the little wooded area. I'm like, okay. So we go over there and then he says, do you do brown?
Oh no.
And I'm like, huh? What? And he's like, do you do brown? I'm like, what's that? I have no idea. He's like, heroin.
Oh.
I'm like, are you kidding? I mean, I've heard about that on MTV. I was so not, I mean, I was a naive guy. And then he pulls out this little packet, like a little mini Ziploc, and he pulls out this little black tar ball. And he puts it in a spoon that he had in his pocket, like a bent kitchen spoon. And he puts a lighter under it and he melts it down. And then he's putting it over like a joint, I think it was, and he's like, here. And I'm like, dude, I am so gone, out of this. I'm over it, and, walked away. And I always remember like, dude, that's crazy. And then a buddy of mine saw this guy 10 years back, and he was a janitor at the hospital, and he weighed like 75 pounds,
Oh, man.
So it's like those decisions when you're 15 can completely alter you when you're 35.
Yeah.
It's good that you had your art in your church.
Yeah.
No, football. I mean, sports are,
granted, that was,
like them or hate them.
I wasn't void of my own hardships.
Oh, absolutely.
And bad decisions.
You're a good decision guy. Well, we'll leave it at that.
No, we'll leave it at that, and we'll just paint us a happy bush here. Little
Did
happy.
You like Bob Ross?
Oh, bro, I love Bob Ross.
I grew up watching Bob Ross.
I want to do a Bob Ross deck. I want to try to get in connection with his family because they still kind of, the Bob Ross company, they kind of still control all of his licensing and stuff. Because his
story is really weird, dude, about how that lady was really obsessed with him and then got her husband and them to start licensing his stuff.
I don't know this story.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Okay. So Bob Ross, was an Air Force guy, and he was in Alaska, and he was a bartender actually. And during his lunch break, he would go home and he would paint pie tins. He would paint like our gold panning tins. He would paint like a little setting on them, and then he would sell them at the bar for $15 when he came back in the afternoon.
Is this like the 70s?
this was the 70s. This was
Okay.
probably the early 70s. And
Okay.
he was just, everyone loved him as a great bartender. That's what he did, I guess, when he was off base or whatnot. And then they transferred him back to, the continental US, the mainland here. And he got heavily into painting, more and more and more, and became obsessed with it. And then I think he got that little show, maybe, or no, he was doing like lessons things, like probably in the back of like a Michael's kind of store where you could
Yeah.
sign up for like a seminar.
Yeah.
And a woman had lost her child, and she was very depressed. And her husband, she wanted to paint, and her husband signed her up for a class. And I think the regular teacher couldn't come, so they called in the sub, Bob Ross, and she became infatuated with him.
Oh, is this like in a documentary or something that you watched?
Yeah, I've read it. I read this story, and she's still living. I mean, she's an older woman. I think her and her husband are still alive. And she became infatuated with him, and she would just go around to his seminars, and then she would say, you should be reaching a greater audience. And then somehow they figured out to get him on a public station in Indiana, would put him on PBS.
Wow.
And she like started producing it and stuff like that. I think they were like producing it, and they had basically handled the business end, because Bob Ross was very business naive and wasn't into it, but he wanted to reach a lot of people.
Hmm.
So they took that, and I think that his son became a Bob Ross certified instructor, et cetera. But I think now they own all the rights to Bob Ross, and then his son, I think, is upset, and he's kind of vanished from public view. His son was mad that they've never contacted him or given him any part of it.
Oh, wow.
So they own Bob Ross, and all of his paintings that he did on the show are in a warehouse in
Yeah.
Virginia.
Yeah. That's interesting, because I remember seeing something about that, like the company that owns all that stuff.
They're sitting there. They said they have no
Yeah.
intent on selling it. I mean, there's major museums that wanted to buy it as part of Americana, and
Like, why
no.
wouldn't they want to sell it? I wonder.
It's so weird, and also the liability of it.
Or why would they not want to put that in a museum?
My own 2 cent psychology is that she has some kind of deep infatuation or love, or possibly they were together. I don't want to, say anything. It's all tentative. But I think it's a deeper connection, because why wouldn't you cash in?
Well, either it's not even cashing in, because I could see someone, that standpoint, like loving that person's art so much that they would want the best for it, and maybe the best for it is for them to, put it in a museum so other people could see it. I don't know, though.
Well, my friend Juan Luis Buñuel, the painter who did like the Octopus Could Palm cover. Well, he passed away, but he was a very close friend of mine. His dad, as we talked about last time, was the film director Luis Buñuel.
Mm-hmm.
And Juan Luis I have his paintings all over my house, and he would send them to me, and I'd be like, "Hey Juan, you should keep them, for your son or this and that." And then he told me, he said, "Look, when I die, if I leave them to my kids, they're going to put them out on the curb for trash collection, because they don't care about them. They have no appreciation for them. But if somebody's a fan of the work or purchases it, like I'll sell them to you for $100, like cheap. So I would buy them off him. You're going to keep it forever and pass it to your kids, but my kids will just throw them away."
Wow.
It's true. It's true too. I mean, it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
It's so I mean, Bob Ross, now the licensing is insane. They have breath mints.
Yeah, they have energy. They have a Bob Ross energy drink.
Well, he was very low energy, though. It's very interesting.
Oh, yeah. What was this show called? I can't remember. Why do I not remember it? It was like Painting Time or something like that.
Yeah, what was the name of it?
The
awesome.
magic of painting, or the joy of painting.
The joy of painting. The joy of painting. And a lot of people, when you read it.
Are you there? What happened? Did I lose you? Oh, looks like his internet crapped out. Now I just got to paint here alone by myself. Oh, maybe he'll come back. You know, it's a Bob Ross curse. Here he comes. Hello? I see you, but I don't hear you.
Now can you hear me?
There you go.
There I am. I'm sorry about that.
They said some people in the chat were saying it was a Bob Ross curse. You were talking about Bob Ross, and your internet goes out.
Well, I think Bob Ross would have fixed the internet, though.
Yeah.
Am
Bob
I back
Ross.
now?
Bob
Can you
Ross
hear
is
me?
Bob Ross is the Chuck Norris of the art world.
Oh, that's a great analogy, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Don't you love Chuck Norris?
I met Chuck Norris once. It was amazing.
Oh, please tell me about this.
I was at church, and I worked at the church that he went to in Dallas.
Wait, did he live in Dallas?
Yeah, he lives in Dallas. Wait, did
Yeah, I know he had a place in Orange County he sold a couple years ago.
He did at the time, at least. And I remember I was like, "Hey, that's a Chuck Norris," and he's like, he is so small.
Oh, really?
I mean, like that kind of like you see actors in real life, and you're like, "Wow, you're pretty small. You're really short," and they usually are. They're like 5'10", 5'11", whatever, 5'8". But Chuck Norris was really small, and I remember like looking at him. I was like, "Man, this guy's really small." Let's see.
Like, give me an example. Like, how small was Chuck Norris really?
Let's see. He's 5'10", and I guess he's 80 years old, dude.
Is he really that old?
Yeah, isn't that amazing? The Chuck
he was
Norris.
in Bruce Lee. He was in a Bruce Lee film.
Oh man, that where they're fighting at the Coliseum in Rome.
Yeah, what was that, Fist of Fury? Maybe.
Oh man, one of the most epic chest hair scenes of any cinematic adventure ever.
Oh, I love it. I love that scene.
Oh, it was amazing because it was like.
Was he nice though?
Yeah, he was super nice. And the funny thing is my wife Becca, she somehow, I can't remember, and I don't remember if she remembers or not, but she has a signed headshot style picture of Chuck Norris dressed up, like he's in his Walker Texas Ranger outfit. Okay.
Oh, how cool is that?
And it's like a full body shot. It's huge belt buckle. He's like leaned up against a pickup truck, and she must have been at some kind of like fan thing or signing or something like that. More likely, it was at some kind of church event that he was at, and it's signed, to Rebecca. This is Chuck Norris, mind you. This is Chuck Norris talking. It says, "Rebecca, you are an inspiration to me," and it says Chuck Norris. And my wife, every time we move, like we've moved a lot, and every time we move, she tries to get rid of that picture. And I'm like, we will never get rid of this picture because.
Why would you want to get rid of that?
And I was like, this is Chuck Norris saying that my wife is an inspiration to him.
Why don't you frame it though?
It is. It's not framed, but it's like it's got water stains on it, and it's like torn in the corners. It looks just tattered. And anywhere we go,
you have to keep that. Why does she want to get rid of it?
She doesn't. She's not going to get rid of it because I'm not going to let her. But anywhere we go, I put that up in our laundry room on the wall.
Oh, that's freaking! You got to take a photo of that, dude. I love that.
Yeah.
Chuck Norris is just I've heard good things about him.
Yeah. He was nice when I met him.
I'm sure he is. He's a great dude. I mean, it's funny though when you meet actors and they're a lot smaller. Like I remember seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I was like, he's supposed to be 6'2". He had like boots on him. He's under 6. I think he's probably 5'11". That's my guess.
Really, he was shorter than that.
Maybe 6 feet. I don't know. He's always listed as 6'2", and he has his boots on. I don't think. I mean, it's been debated actually, because I actually looked it up because I'm like, there's no way he was 6'2".
The crazy thing is like when you watch movies like like Pumping Iron. When you watch like Pumping Iron, like. Arnold was definitely taller than everybody else. So that means
maybe his spine compressed.
Maybe. Because like I thought to myself, man, if he's if you don't think he's 6'2", then that means that everybody else in that movie was just really, really short, because I remember him like towering over everybody.
That's interesting. I don't know. It's like my good friend, my childhood friend, ended up doing casting in Hollywood, and he ended up working for like a producer named Michael Phillips, who did Taxi Driver and Close Encounters. And he was telling me, I was like 17. He's like, you know what? When you meet all these actors, they're way smaller than you think they are, except this guy who's in a movie called Swingers named Vince Vaughn. He's a
Oh,
solid 6'5", and it's hard to cast him because everyone else is so small.
yeah. It's like that, and what's his face? Tim Robbins, the
Yes.
Shawshank guy. He's super tall, isn't he?
Yeah, he's I think 6'5.5".
Yeah, that's crazy.
He looks tall though. I mean, you see him on screen and you know for sure
Yeah.
he's big. I mean, Tony Todd, the Candyman, is a solid 6'5".
Mm-hmm. Is that the black guy?
Yeah, that's my
What's
buddy Tony.
I'm trying to remember? Yeah, I remember what he looks like. Yeah.
Oh, he's the best. He's a magic guy. He loves magic.
Really?
Yeah, Tony and I used to go to the Magic Castle together. I'll tell you a great Magic Castle story. You've been there, you said, right?
Once.
Okay. Well, they have a stool at the bar, like a bar chair
Yes, yes,
at the
yes, yes.
castle, and Tony Todd and I are sitting there at the end of the bar, and Tony's been drinking quite a lot. I mean, he likes his rum, and he's sitting there and he's drinking, and I'm not drinking because I had to drive all the way back to Orange County. But we're sitting there, and then he says to me, he says, "Man, what's up with this seat?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I hate feeling this small. I swear this chair's been shrinking all night long." And I'm like, "Tony, you've drank a lot, dude. Like, you're nuts." He's like, "How come I'm so much smaller than you now? We're like the same size. This is BS." And I'm like, "Tony, dude, like, okay, let's just get another drink, you know." And so I think he orders up a Hennessy or something, and then finally he just keeps complaining about it over and over again. And then the bartender turns around and he's kind of smirking, and Tony sees it. And he's like, "What are you laughing at? You know something I don't." And the guy's like, and he goes over to the wall and he hits the switch and the chair goes back up.
Yeah, I remember that. They got all kind of fun stuff like that there.
Oh, it's freaking awesome. But like, I didn't even know about the chair. I had forgot about it. And I
Mm.
thought he was just, out of his mind. And he's like, "I told you, man. I told you. I did not like shrinking in that chair."
I remember when I went, Chris Chelko took me,
Yes.
and
Jay Leno time.
yeah, it was Jay Leno time, and I remember we walked. I'm trying to remember some of the quirky things that the little quirky gags that he showed me. I don't know if we're supposed to talk about it. Is there like some kind of like a code that we're not supposed to talk about it? I don't know.
Well, they're closed. They're closed now for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and there was like a picture frame that you'd walk down the stairs, and there was a picture frame on the wall, and somehow they made it to where whoever was the guy that was the member, his picture was in that picture frame in some kind of like funky photo. And so I remember I was walking down the stairs and there's Chris Chelko's picture in this picture frame on the wall, and he's like in this
Oh, really?
like in this 70s leisure suit and stuff.
So they changed the picture out?
Yeah. Well, no, it was like a video screen in a frame kind of a thing.
Oh, I've never even seen that before. I've been to the castle a million times. That's fascinating. Did you ever go to a seance there?
No, I ain't gonna do that crap.
Oh, dude, it's a must. Rob Zabrecki, the
No,
greatest.
that's the guy. I remember you showing me. I remember seeing that guy because you had talked about him. And does he do those seances at the castle?
Yes, he does. There was like a midnight seance you could book. I mean, I hope it comes back and he can do
I
it. But it's
remember
like one
that.
of those life-changing events. It's just so awesome. I remember I went to a friend's bachelor party and I booked a midnight seance with Rob Zabrecki, and Tony Todd again came with us, and we had gone to the Pacific Dining Car, which is my kind of inspiration for clip joint in a way. That
Mm-hmm.
I loved the dark wood and the colors in there, and we were at the midnight seance, and Rob starts talking, and he's gonna contact Houdini,
Oh wow.
and Tony's sitting there listening, and then Rob was just talking about like where he's buried or something, and then Tony Todd says, "He ain't buried there, Zabrecki." And then Rob's like, "Mr. Todd, have you had too many drinks tonight?" Because he's in character as like this kind of
Yeah.
snarky seance guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, no matter how much I drink, you got that wrong. He's
Oh,
blank, blank, blank. And he like gave all these facts about Houdini. And then Rob's like, okay, Mr. Todd, I see that you want some attention, but it's time to let Houdini speak. And then like, Tony was like, all right, Zabrecki, and then sat back. And then so the next day at like 2 in the afternoon, I get a text from Rob and he's like, holy beep, Mr. Todd was right. I am a doofus. He was drunk out of his mind and he schooled me on Houdini. He should be doing the seances. Send my apologies to Mr. Todd.
that's funny.
And I told Tony and he's like, I knew that Zabrecki was off his rocker.
Off his rocker.
It was so funny, dude. The castle is the most unique place in Los Angeles for sure.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's amazing. I mean, can you imagine if it goes away? I mean, I don't know what else unique will be left in Los Angeles. The town has been completely remapped of anything culturally significant.
Yeah.
I mean, all major cities, I think, are like that, right?
I mean, in a way, yeah.
I hear people talk about Fort Worth, Texas, and they talk about all the stuff that's gone away in the stockyards. And it's one of those catch 22s where if you don't modernize, you don't update, you don't
Yeah.
get the Shake Shack in,
Yeah.
it just becomes urban blight and kind of a slum. So you have to bring in that stuff.
Yep.
What's your thought? I mean, how do you do it?
I mean, it's hard because I'm definitely a sucker for nostalgia for sure.
Same here.
And
oh, me too.
But at the same time, I think there's good things about progress, and sometimes, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I haven't thought about it enough to form my own, eloquent opinion about it at this moment.
Well, it's like my wife says when people complain about, Austin's growing too much. Austin's growing too much. My wife says, well, do you want the alternative? Go look at any American city that's shrinking. And do you want that or do you want growth? Let's say growth is good.
Yeah. I can see from that standpoint for sure.
It's like, have you ever been to, let's say Dearborn, Michigan, or somewhere in the Rust Belt, like outside of Louisville? I've been to places where they had better days.
I keep thinking, didn't you show me a picture of like somebody's coat sleeve that was like a tweed or something at one point in time?
Yes. It was from Double Indemnity. It was Fred McMurray's thing. I think it's in our folder, and it's like this the most amazing pattern. Now you're bringing that back when I talked about. I love that texture. Just it totally 40s to me.
I want to put like a tweed texture on this jacket. I think you'll like it.
Oh yeah, you got to get that that screenshot. Or actually, it might have been from The Killing. It might have been Sterling Hayden's jacket. I think it was reaching for the money, right, in the suitcase.
Yeah. How do you spell tweed?
TWEED.
TWE.
ED.
Tweed texture. Yeah.
That's so cool. Dude, you nailed the background for sure. I mean, that's hard to do.
I've been doing this thing where in some of my recent stuff that I really like, and I'll just take like a fabric texture or some kind of texture that's flat, that's totally opposite in terms of like perspective of the subject. And then I'll just kind of overlay it onto, like, say, their clothes. And it creates this really cool effect. And I was thinking about that for this. Let me just buy this.
That kind of tweed sport coat was so iconic.
Yeah, for sure.
You can almost feel it, like the scratchiness of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I think that, how the Romans went to the UK, how that's the whole deal. They were fascinated by the tweed, actually, by the fabric capability in the UK. They had never seen anything like it, I believe. And that's what they really wanted, was kind of that textile.
Yeah.
I know you're a big history guy.
I love history.
World migration is fascinating. Like, they were saying that the word canoe is actually like a Polynesian term, and they have evidence that the Polynesians had been on like the west coast of the US, like trading with the Native Americans there at the time, and used the word canoe, and then that's how we have that term.
That's crazy.
I mean, to think though, like these Polynesians and these tiny islands made it all the way over there, and they said, there was no war, there was no takeover, they were just trading, and then they just went back to their islands. It's much different than when the British came over.
Well, it's like, it's like Easter Island and stuff. Like, how did people get out to Easter Island?
Oh, I know. I think only the biggest and strongest that could eat that fat away on a boat
Yeah,
for
I think
that
you're gonna.
long. I mean, think about it. Oh, look at that. That's it. That's that.
So now watch this. I'll mask it out like this.
That is exactly like it.
Now watch this. It's amazing what this. It's super. It's a simple technique, but watch this when I do it. I'll mask it out, and then what I want you to look at is like the just kind of like the gray, like the monochromatic gray color of your coat.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't do anything else, but then I'll go back and then I'll paint back in this texture just over the top. And then the photo texture mixed with my illustration and the values in my illustration creates these really kind of like rich variants of color. You'll have like the greens and the blues and stuff, but it's just a gray jacket.
When did you start doing this technique?
I mean, I've been doing it for years, but I didn't really start doing it like seriously. I started really doing it with Wizard of Oz a few decks ago, and I just was like, I loved it. I forgot about how much I like doing this.
Is that deck out yet?
No, it's gonna be I think June's deck. I think June's subscription deck.
I love that.
But I'll show you. I'll show you an
logo.
example, like the Wizard of Oz, the Wizard. I mean, I did it on a lot of them in the Wizard of Oz deck, but especially like one I'm thinking of is like the Wizard himself. Like he's got this jacket, and he's got like an actual paisley pattern, a paisley pattern on it. Let's see here. Let's see, where are you? King of Spades.
Now, if you brought Leyendecker back today and he saw the abilities of Photoshop, what would he think? Would he be all over it?
Oh yeah, I think he would. I mean, I think there'll be some aspects of people, the purists, that don't want to do it, but I think that, I mean, there's always going to be that person that doesn't want to do it. But I think the people, and this is me speaking from my own standpoint. Let me just find this. Why can I not find this? There it is. Like me, I just love to create stuff. And how I create it, I don't really care. And so like see his coat has got like this pattern, and his little vest has this paisley pattern.
Look at that texture.
And it's just a texture that I just, and then see his like his lapel has this kind of like woven texture.
So cool.
And then like, let's see. What was it called? The Gatekeeper.
Do you like the Wizard of Oz film?
I mean, I probably saw it a couple times. Like, look at his. See, he's got that same tweed. Look at that tweed on his jacket. You see that?
Wow.
And it's just in the plaid on his shirt. It's such a simple thing to do, but I think it adds a lot of depth.
Absolutely. Textures are what drives my interest in something, honestly.
I mean, look at that from right about the size of a playing card. I think that's going to be awesome.
Isn't in the book Wizard of Oz, aren't the slippers silver?
Yeah, it's silver slippers in the book.
It's a good decision though to turn them red photographically. I think a lot of authors don't understand when directors change something, but cinema is so different than visualization from a novel.
Yeah, I can see that.
Did you ever see Brian De Palma's movie Carrie?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know how like she's basically doing that. What's funny is there's a delay, so all the stuff you're talking about now, I'm just seeing it right now.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's fascinating. It's like you get to live in the past and the future.
You're right. Well, in the beginning I watched the stream, but I only watch the stream now just to make sure it's working.
Oh yeah. Well, you're doing other things. Um, with in Brian De Palma's movie Carrie, remember when she's getting furious at her overbearing mother, and I think she like throws the knives or whatever are coming in
Mm-hmm.
the air and stuff at the
Mm-hmm.
mom. I mean, in the book, Brian De Palma said if you read the book, it's just like this kind of deep emotional, kind of telekinesis thing. And he said, how do you translate that on film? You have two people staring at each other for 5 minutes. It doesn't work. Stephen King said he didn't like that scene, and then De Palma said, well, what do you do?
Yeah.
If people watch people look at each other and that's it.
Yeah. But like, how do you translate 90% of the stuff in a Stephen King book?
Yeah, it's true. He hasn't been a big fan of his. I mean, he hated The Shining, which I think is a great movie, great adaptation. Did you see The Shining?
Oh yeah.
I think it's one of the few actually creepy movies.
I'm gonna add this little tiny yellow border around your figure, and it's gonna make that orange pop even more.
Orange is one of my favorite colors. I'm a warm color guy. I like oranges and reds. Not as big of a fan of blues.
Well, you're a warm guy.
I'm a warm guy. I'm a warm, fuzzy guy. You know what's funny is I love this movie Uncle Buck. You ever seen this movie?
Oh, Uncle Buck, what a great movie.
I love Uncle Buck, but my kids always say that the Uncle Buck reminds them of me.
John Candy, man, that was a good movie.
It's one of my favorite movies.
Dan
he's
Aykroyd,
loving,
right?
but
Dan
stern.
Aykroyd and John Candy.
No, Aykroyd's not in it. That's Great Outdoors.
Oh, okay. He's like the rich brother-in-law or something.
Yeah, his name's Roman.
Roman. Yeah, Roman 1 is the license plate.
Yes, that's right, from Illinois, and they have like the Mercedes.
Yeah.
I love that. We just watched that again with the bear.
Yeah.
We were watching it, and my kids are like, "That's a fake bear," and I'm like, "Well, of course it is." And then after I look it up, and that was actually a stunt bear that could act, that was in like tons of movies.
Yeah.
It was a real bear, dude. I mean, can you imagine that?
Mm-hmm. Like I think about those movies, and I think about like a list of like 5 movies that I'm trying to remember that I would I feel like I associate these movies all in like a little group like that. What was that movie with Harry and the Hendersons?
Oh yes, yes. Where they're throwing the rocks at him at the end, and I was a kid. I'm like, why are they doing that to
Yeah,
Harry?
yeah, exactly. But like Harry and the
Get out of
Henderson.
here, Harry.
Yeah. What's that guy's name? I love that guy,
John
Lithgow.
Lithgow.
Did you ever? I'm sure I know you did because you're a Twilight Zone fan. That's my favorite.
Yes.
My favorite episodes are the I mean the first one was what's his name? Not Patrick Stewart, the other Star Trek captain.
You mean like the movie Twilight Zone, the movie?
Well, my favorite Twilight Zones are when it's the plane episode where the monsters on the plane.
Oh, Shatner.
Yeah, Shatner, and then Shatner did it first. He was the passenger, and then Lithgow did it the second when Lithgow's the passenger.
Was that from the Steven Spielberg movie?
No, is that a Steven Spielberg Twilight Zone movie?
He did a Twilight Zone, the movie. I think it was like a TV movie, maybe.
I don't know. I just remember Lithgow was the passenger.
Oh, that's weird. I never saw that.
Yeah, because have you seen
Lithgow? What's that?
have you seen the one where Patrick Stewart? Not Patrick Stewart. The other captain. I just forgot his name again. Damn, Kirk. What's the guy? You just had his name.
Nimoy.
No, the like the epic captain. You just said Shatner, William Shatner.
Yeah, Shatner.
Yeah, he was the passenger in the first one.
Yeah, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, I think it's called.
Yes, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, and I remember that scared the bejesus out of me seeing that.
I had that on like Christmas Eve, and my daughter at the time was like 3, and she was covering her face and she was freaking out.
We need to make this guitar red. I think. Is that okay with you?
Let's see it. You mean the back of it?
Yeah,
the
like
neck?
no. Well, this thing down that's coming out your armpit is like the bottom of the is the butt of the guitar.
I'll have to catch up with the delay and
Gotcha.
see what you're talking about in like a minute maybe. Right now I'm seeing you outline my shoulder in like a slight yellow hue.
Gotcha. Oh, wow, so you're really far behind.
Well, I'm a late bloomer, Jackson, is what they call people like me. I'm a wallflower. I love all those. The 80s were like such a great era for film.
Mm.
One of the last eras where you could actually make like a kind of a creative film where they didn't just care about the return only.
Yeah.
I mean, you had producers who were like, okay, we'll make $1 million off of it. That's okay. But now it's like, yeah, we need to make 80 million to cover, our
Jeez.
investors.
Yeah.
Have you ever looked at like the gross on some of these Disney movies? Like, what was it? The Tim Burton directed Alice in Wonderland.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, he made $1 billion for Disney.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like the Pirates of the Caribbean thing. I mean, they made so much money off that franchise.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Red for the back, coming out of my armpit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could do red or like I know Stratocaster has that amazing sunburst. You ever seen the 3-tone sunburst?
Yeah,
like black
it's not quite that much. It's not much real estate to do the whole sunburst thing.
That's true, because to see sunburst, you have to see it evolve in 3 steps.
But I think that you'll once you catch up, I think the red's gonna be fine. I'm gonna give it some little shading here.
That's great, and this is a wonderful birthday treat. It's my birthday on Sunday.
That's right, I forgot about that. Happy birthday! You're what, 20,
Oh, thank
20
you.
27?
Yeah, well, Jackson, I don't know how you forgot because I believe we're going to Sedona this Sunday together, aren't we?
Yes, yes.
I told Jackson my mom would take me to Sedona, Arizona as a kid, and she would, say, "Can you feel the healing powers of the crystal?"
No.
That there's crystals, not crystal meth, but just the crystals and the red rocks. That looks really good, actually. The red.
Yeah.
It's like a Fiesta red. That was my favorite color from Fender guitars. Was always Fiesta red, which was it's an old Ford color.
Yes, yes.
Hey, thanks, Griffin.
We
said happy birthday.
I remember my first car was a 1975 Ford Bronco, and my dad and I rebuilt it. Well, my dad rebuilt it.
Did you sell it to OJ?
No, it was the old one. It was like the ones that are like really sought after now. But
like the square ones.
Yeah, I remember we redid it, and he painted it Ford. He used tractor paint, and he painted it Ford tractor blue, and I was awesome.
Did it look good, the paint job?
Oh, it looks so good. Yeah, my dad and I reminds me of me selling that. We sold that when I was in high school. It was a horrible mistake, but oh well, you learn your lessons.
I had a friend who owned a body shop in Garden Grove called Body Pros, and he used to always have a different painter, like in the painting bay. And I would say, "Hey, Derek, what happened to Jimmy?" And he'd be like, "Hey, don't you know, dude? Painters go mental. Like the car painters, like from the fumes." He's like, they have like a 4-year shelf life, and I have to like get a new one because once they're later on in their career, they have like psychological issues. And I love maybe you just hired 2 bad ones. And he's like, no, it's absolutely true. And I'm like, what was he doing? And then he started telling me some of the stuff, the painter, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it.
I love that you called it, he had a shelf life. It's awesome.
Yeah, he had a shelf life. He did. My buddy Michael, his dad owned a mechanic shop in Phoenix, Arizona, and he always told me this story about how he had this awesome Mexican-American mechanic that worked for him. And the guy every year in July would come in on July 1st, and he would have half of his body completely shaved, like with a razor. So just half of it. So he would bisect his body and he would shave with a razor, half of his hair, half of his arm, half of his leg.
That's so crazy, dude.
And he's like, I'm like, why did he do it? He's like, I don't know. My dad didn't ask any questions. He was a great mechanic, but definitely a little off. But every year, like clockwork, he worked for him for like 20 years. He would do that.
That's so strange, but it's so interesting at the same time.
Dude, I think about it all the time. Like I'll be sitting there thinking like, yeah, how crazy is that?
I hope that I'm like that in some sort of way when I'm older, or even now.
Do you do any
eccentric stuff? Well, I mean, I draw all the time. My wife calls that eccentric, where I'm not doing anything else. But
are you like at dinner with your wife and then you're drawing on a napkin?
No, I'm not that. No. Mm-mm.
my friend Paul Harmon, he's like a storyboard artist, and then he draws comic books. I think he was doing like the Ninja Turtles a couple years back, and he worked for Hasbro doing like concept art, and he had his own comic book on Dark Horse called I think it was Dark Horse called Mora, or maybe it was Image Comics. But he's a cool guy. But when you go out with him, like we were having like Thai food in LA, and he was just staring at this lady, and I'm like, Paul, what are you doing? He's like, I just got to master hair, dude. I'm not happy with my hair technique. And he would just be drawing people's hair in the restaurant for 3 hours, just anywhere he went.
Wow.
Like a habitual drawer. Like he would take the subways in New York, and he would show me a book, and he had a book of just noses.
I bet he was really good.
1,000 noses. Oh, yeah.
I bet he could draw the human form really good.
Oh, absolutely. But he had to be distracted when he was drawing. So he would work from home, even, I mean, back 20 years ago, and he would be making Vietnamese soup, pho.
Mm-hmm.
He would be making a pot of pho, like roasting the bones and stuff, making the bone broth, and then he would start like making bread and having it rising, and then go back to work. He always had to be like on a time clock, like having other things pressure him, kind of like you doing lives.
Yeah.
But I think he told me that he had like a chaotic upbringing, like with his father and stuff. So it was always like a chaotic household, and he said that that's just how he evolved to draw.
Yeah.
And he wanted to go back to that when he worked. Did you ever know the artist R. Crumb?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know him
Did you
personally.
watch the movie?
No. What movie is it?
Didn't? It's called Crumb. It's like his story and like how he drew those, he drew those like crazy women, his characters and stuff. And just an absolute, like when you think of eccentric artist or crazy artist, you watch the documentary and you're like, okay, yeah, there you go.
He's probably really crazy.
Oh yeah, he was one of those nervous drawers too. I mean, just like my friend Paul, just had to be drawing. Like they were having nervous breakdowns that they weren't drawing.
Wow.
You were never like that then?
No, I haven't. Not yet. It's looking pretty cool. I like this a lot.
That's great, dude. Look at it. I mean, I'm behind on it and it's still looking great. Did you like working for, didn't you do Coca-Cola packaging at one point?
Yeah, I did the, I painted the Santa Claus that was on the can like in 06 and 07.
Did your family go and buy that?
Yeah, my parents my parents got this big Santa Claus cardboard cutout that they convinced some like convenience store or like grocery store somebody to give them when Christmas is over. I mean, it's all in Spanish. It's just like,
wait, they have a Spanish one?
Yeah, it's just a big Coca. It's like whatever. Enjoy Coca-Cola, happy holidays, but it's all in Spanish, like Feliz Navidad.
Did you sign it? Did you sign it for your parents?
Yes, they have like a whole Coca-Cola shrine at their house of all the stuff.
When they move to Tennessee, are they going to bring it?
Oh yeah, they're going to bring it. They're going to bring all that stuff.
Isn't that great though?
Yeah. Have I ever shown you that picture?
Get jealous of it?
No. Let me see. Have I ever shown you that Santa Claus? Let's see here. I'll just have to wait.
I saw it on your portfolio.
Yeah, that's that one. I guess you saw it then.
It's like the Christmas, it's like the Rockwell kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's how I got my job in the illustration world. Was that project? I just BS'd my way into illustration. And
did you ever get a lot of feedback on it? Like when you were doing it, did they say like, we want this different or that, or?
No, because I really wasn't. I was just a hired hand illustrator kind of guy, and I just did what my bosses told me, and then the illustration studios were what was. Giving them, I mean, the ad agencies were the people that were giving them their feedback.
Did it take you a long time to do it?
I think we worked. I mean, we did like a series of like, I gotta stand up and stretch my legs. We did like a series of like, probably 8 or 9 different illustrations of like penguins, polar bears, and Santa Claus. And it took us about like 3 months. We like worked on it for like 3 months.
Was that in Los Angeles?
No, that was in Dallas, in Louisville, right by Frisco.
Oh, that's why you live there then.
Mm-hmm. That's why. That's when I lived in Frisco.
Did you like that job?
I mean, I liked it for sure. I got to do lots of cool stuff. Got to work on a lot of cool projects. But so yes, I liked the job. It taught me a lot of things that. It taught me a lot of things of stuff that I didn't want to do. In terms of like, um, business and how to run, ways I didn't want to run my business if I was ever a business owner, and it just taught me a lot of things that I didn't want to do.
Hey, look at that. You did that all by yourself. Then I'm looking at it now. I'm sorry if there's a delay, but that Coke is amazing with the polar bear.
Oh, thanks.
Just amazing. And look at, how did you get that style for it?
It's just the same way I'm doing it here is just I have a little smudge brush that I would paint the colors and then just push and pull until it kind of makes it the way I want.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I haven't seen that for a couple of years, but look at it. It's just amazing.
But it was a good experience for sure. It definitely, I mean, it's what kind of got me my start in art professionally, And so it's kind of one of those things of like, did I like the job? No, but it played a huge pivotal role in just like my development as an artist and also, professionally. But because one thing it did teach me, I mean, it showed me, because, we talk about the art center in Pasadena, the artist that was my boss, he went to the art center.
Oh, wow.
And he was
from California, or was he from Dallas?
I want to say he was from California. But it was kind of one of those things. He was a traditional artist that, he was a commercial artist when like he was doing stuff in airbrush and all that kind of stuff. And it really, like, learning from him was like the beginning of like really me like seeing, okay, I can make a living off of being this illustrator that I want to be. Because I wasn't getting that in college. I was just getting the whole, oh, you're an illustrator, you're not an artist. You can't be an artist. You can't be an artist and be an illustrator. And they're coming from the standpoint of like, you can't be a gallery artist kind of a thing. And even that I think is not right, because, especially now with the internet, maybe not as much when I was in college, just because of, the internet wasn't that big, and you didn't have YouTube and stuff like that. But like now, you could be a gallery artist. You could basically do anything that you want in terms of being creative, because your audience is the entire population of the world. If you can get them to watch your stuff somehow, whether it's on YouTube or stuff like that.
Very true. And
so when I started working from them, even though maybe I didn't, maybe they didn't run their business very well or whatever, because they ended up, I don't know if you know my story, but they ended up, letting me go on the same day that we had our first daughter, and we found out my mom had breast cancer on the same day. So,
oh man, I had no idea.
Yeah. When we had Claire, I was working for them, and we were in the waiting room of, my my daughter having birth, and I get the call from one of my bosses, say, hey, we're close. It was kind of broadsided too. I mean, I knew that they were having some trouble, but I didn't think that it was going to be, a game ender. But they were like, yeah, we're closing shop. Sorry, don't come back to work on Monday. And then my my parents kind of sit me down and said, hey, mom has breast cancer, this kind of thing, all on the same day. And that's what really, it was that moment that I was like, I better start like, you get that phrase, crap or get off the pot or something like that. I was like, yes. I was thinking to myself, all these things that I've been wanting to do as an artist in my life. Like, I was 20 at the time. I want to say 20, 24, 25, 26. And I was like, man, I better get started doing this stuff, or because you never know what's going to happen. And that's what led me to like, I want to work in the video game industry, just because I'd always wanted to do that. And it wasn't a thing of like, it wasn't a thing of like me gonna make a career, a lifelong career out of it. I just wanted to do it before I died, and I was thought to myself, let's do it. And that's what got me to Los Angeles. And then, when I was in Los Angeles, that's what kind of ultimately led to, we knew that Los Angeles wasn't where we wanted to be, where we wanted to raise our kids. We wanted to get back to Texas, but we had lots of debt and lots of other stuff that was just kind of like we were in this rat race, and we kind of felt in a way kind of enslaved with it, and we were like, we got to get out of it. And that's what led me to like doing my first t-shirt Kickstarter to earn some extra money so that we could pay off debt and get back to Texas. And then that's what led me to the Federal 52 and playing cards. And so like I think about that moment, when I worked for those guys, like you asked if I liked that job. No, I didn't like the job, but man, that job was pivotal in so many things in my life. Did that
become your obsession with self-reliance?
Yeah. I mean, it was the beginning of that like really pushed me of like wanting to become self-reliant. And then, I've been a Christian my whole life, and I've always read the Bible, but I had never found that First Thessalonians verse that I always put on all my decks of cards. And it wasn't until I found that verse that it almost kind of verbalized what I'd been thinking. Because the two parts of that verse are, learning, working with your hands, with your daily, so that your daily life wins the respect of outsiders. But then the last part of the verse, it actually says, so that you can be dependent on no one. And it wasn't really when I found that verse that I was like, this kind of is like the mission statement, the motto. And then that's kind of like with King's Wild, when I decided to like really, and it wasn't until tragedy, later in life, during King's Wild, when we lost our daughter Hannah, in 2016, it wasn't until that tragedy in my life that it was like, okay, I've kind of got a hint of what this looks like in life, of being able to own a business and do what I want and to mark off those bucket list things. But it wasn't until another tragedy in my life that was like, okay, you've done a good job so far, but you need to kind of take it to the next level. You need to get serious about this. And then that's what really...
Is your mother okay?
Yeah, she's good now. I think she's been clear for like 10 years.
Oh, wow. That's great then.
It is. But it wasn't until that next tragedy in my life that, like, okay, I love this King's Wild thing. I love owning my business. But I was, we were in my wife and I were both in just a huge year of depression that year when we lost our daughter. And I was like, it was my worst year, just financially, because I wasn't producing anything and I wasn't making any, I wasn't designing that many decks of cards, but that's all I did. And that's the only kind of income we had. And my wife just set me down. She was like, you've got to figure out how to reinvent yourself and take this to the next level. And I was like, or you need to find something else to do, because I was at that point, I was ready to quit playing cards and all this kind of stuff.
Now, what year is that?
2016. And then it was 2016 going into 17. Well, it's
a fascinating story.
It was like 2016, 17. And then it took me like a year and a half to go through this depression. And then my wife was like, you've got to figure something out. And it was in 2018, where 2 weeks after she set me down and had that conversation with me of, you got to figure something out, is when I came up with the idea for the playing card subscription. And that's
what a crazy idea.
And that's
what a crazy idea in hindsight.
And that's really, breathed new life into me inspirationally and just like motivationally. And will I do the subscriptions forever? Absolutely not. I may not even do the subscriptions next year. I don't know. Because I want to just because I have this like, I think we've talked about this before, like, and I think a lot of artists do this, but for me, for sure, like, I have like this cyclical nature of like every 2.5 to 3 years, I've got to basically like hit the reset button
Yes,
on.
I know that.
And King's Wild has been the thing that I've done longer in my life than anything else. And I'm surprised that I'm still doing it. But it's had to have been under the framework of I got to figure out how to reset it and make it new for myself, every 2 or 3 years. And, I'll be coming up on the 2 or 3 year mark with the subscriptions next year. So
you're shocked though that you're still doing King's Wild then?
Oh, yeah. My wife and I always joke about it. Like, what am I going to do for a living?
Oh, you mean like if
like when I grow up?
What would you do? Like, let's just say tomorrow that an alien force removed the whole idea of playing cards from the universe. What would you do?
I'd try to figure another niche market that I could draw pictures on and make a living at it.
I wonder what it would be though. I mean, it's interesting.
Well, I've already got some things. I got some things brewing already.
Of course you do. That's interesting. It's almost like analyzing your story then. The feeling of that helplessness and all-time low is so significant that you're going to do anything in your power to not feel that helpless again.
Right. And at the same time, like, I don't ever want to forget those moments because it was in those moments that was the foundation of what so much good that came out of it afterwards.
I know that Mike Tyson said that the reason why he was so fierce was that he was such a scared, bullied kid, and he never wanted to feel that way again. He never wanted to feel so helpless, so beat up that he was going to become somebody different.
I could see. I mean, yeah, I can totally see that for sure.
That's interesting. I mean, I wonder how many people would have just quit in your situation.
I mean, there's a lot of people that do, and there's a lot of people. I think it goes back to that whole thing of like whether it's wrong or right, whatever your choice is. I mean, depending on who you are, and like for me, just because of me and my faith, there is a wrong and a right. But with that said, whether it's wrong or right in your eyes, either way, you'll have some sort of consequence to deal with, and whether if I decided to do, in that moment in my life, decided to do different or go a different route, good could have come out of that. Good or bad could have come out of both decisions, depending on how anybody or I dealt with the consequences because of those. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
It's funny though, because I'm imagining that year of 2016 of you actually having downtime, which I can't imagine.
Like 2016, like the 2016, 2017, those like those years that I was really kind of going through depression. Like I wasn't I maybe produced 4 decks that year. I may have drawn like 4 decks that entire year and produced 4 decks that year.
So what were you doing with your other time then? Because I know you don't like to have free time.
I did a lot of like woodworking and metalworking and stuff like that. Other stuff with my hands, but it was just all kind of meandering creatively, and it was just doing stuff. It was doing stuff creatively and creating stuff, but it wasn't with purpose and with a focus. And for me at least, and it's not like that with everybody, but for me at least, like my creativity is much more efficient and productive if I can put a focus and like a vision to it. And like even like with these lives have been great. And you know what? I was talking about this with Becca, my wife. Like these lives, like it was kind of a thing of like an idea that I had to like, because I enjoyed, when I did that 24-hour live show, I enjoyed the push that I had during that show to like create something. And so far it's been just, it started out as just like an idea of like, hey, let's do a live every morning. But you know what? It's becoming a bigger thing than what I originally thought, just like the subscriptions did. And my wife and I were talking about how maybe this live thing is like that next chapter of me pushing the reset button, and how I make it fresh and new, because not only am I getting the energy of like being able to be productive and focused because I have got people watching and all this kind of stuff, and I've got a time limit, but just from the sheer fact that, we're on day 51 of doing this, and that just means
crazy.
that I've got 51 days of solid consecutive, 3 and 4 hour work blocks where it's just the productivity is just skyrocketing for myself. And that's only going to keep getting me better because, with every hour that I put into this whole thing, the better I get. And so maybe this, we were joking about it. We weren't joking about it. We were just talking about it with my wife, just like how this live thing may be the next thing that resets the button. Because, everybody that you see in the chat over there, all these people, most of these people that you see over there have been here since the beginning, and it means a lot to them just as it means a lot to me, because, I think there's so much crap in the world today that, people have choices and people choose how they want to spend their time. And I hope that, for me, this is a productive thing, and this is a inspirational thing for me, and a productive thing. And I want to be like that for other people, because ultimately, as an artist, a professional artist, when it gets down to it, my business is me having to create something that convinces somebody else to choose to spend their money and time on my stuff over a cup of coffee or at Starbucks or this or something else. And, I would be...
That's a great point. It's a great point.
Yeah, because it all comes down to you making someone else decide to choose your stuff over theirs. And I know that's very simple, but that's really the heart of it. And I want to be able to create something that's meaningful enough that they make that choice, while at the same time creating something that is meaningful, positive, that's not trashing up somebody's life, mentally and emotionally and stuff like that.
So what you're saying is that people should be watching the real drawings of Jackson Robinson instead of the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Yeah, we laugh about it, but you're absolutely correct, because if you have person A and maybe they watch the Real Wives of Atlanta, but what if they catch my YouTube show and they decide to start? Yeah, so we joke, but yes, you're absolutely right.
I totally agree. If you look at I remember I read a study on depression and reality television. I think my wife showed it to me because my wife hates reality TV, and she was saying, like, look at the correlation between depression and reality TV. It's either you see people and you wish that you had their imaginary life, which is unhappy, or you are watching this as an escape. That's your escape.
Yeah, that's the cancer of social media is you have all of these perceived lifestyles that really are not even really true, and then you have all these people that that are depressed because they think that these other people's lifestyles that they're comparing their own lives to actually exist.
Absolutely. It's like I had an acquaintance of mine that I had saw on social media, and they would always show that they were buying their wife a new car for their birthday, and they would wrap it up in a ribbon and stuff like this. And I made the joke to my wife. I said, he's got to have another girlfriend. Look at this on social media. That's all he talks about, is how what a great husband he is. This guy's amazing. He's wrapping SUVs and bows.
I've always wanted to ask, like, a car dealership, like somebody like a car salesman. I was like, do y'all really have big bows? Like, does that ever happen?
I know. Well, I don't know. Maybe they do if you're gonna spend them $1,000 to do it. But I remember, in the end, it comes out, their marriage is a total sham.
Yeah. Because
like the personal stuff I know about it, and it's like they just had it on social media. I'm sure a lot of people looked at it and said, "Oh, I wish I had a husband like that did this."
Yeah, and then but all that you have of that person is a couple of posts on a stupid phone screen, and and then that is your barometer of whether or not that person is a genuine, person.
Well, it's funny because we're told never judge a book by its cover.
Yeah. Never.
But I don't
It
think
should
that's
be.
the way
It should
life
be
works.
called something like, never judge a book by their Instagram feed or something.
It's true. It's really interesting too. Like, when I talk to younger people who grew up with all of this, and their brain is completely different than mine, how much it matters to them on, what other people think of them.
Yeah.
Their media life. I don't think anybody knows the real them. I'm just saying that they want the adoration. And also, I notice a lot of people, the instant gratification culture of like Amazon, like, can I get it tomorrow? With people might look at your lives and think like, wow, that's a lot of work to do a deck of cards. I mean, maybe they'll actually get to see that people don't just wake up and have a company like King's Wild in 2 weeks.
Yeah. And I also think that I agree with that. And I also believe that so many people, the majority of the population, sell themselves short of what they can actually do.
Absolutely true.
If they just, and I don't want to say, it sounds so corny, if you just set your mind to it, but like literally the potential that people have if they just filtered out the crap and the wasted time in their life. And I'm not saying that from a standpoint of I don't have crap and I don't have wasted time in my life, because I absolutely do. But
we all do.
But just knowing that the amount of stuff, that the potential that people have, that if they just practiced and did it, and like I think about like what's a good example? I remember thinking about this. Like I think about like sports when I was a kid. Now I loved sports and stuff like that, but I think about all the practices, all of like, for some people, absolutely, sports ends up becoming a profession. Now, granted, it is for a very small list of people that happens. But in Texas, like when I was growing up, I mean, like football was life, and no matter if you were the suckiest or the best person on the team, your time and life was geared around that. This was the most important thing in your life. And I think about like football when I was growing up. If I would have spent all of the minutes that I spent in practice or in weightlifting, training, all that kind of stuff, if I would have spent every minute drawing of what I love to do anyways, of what I love to do, what I actually really loved to do, if I would have spent all those minutes growing up drawing and practicing my craft of what I love to do, just at how much further along, or how astronomically better I would be at this point, and it's just how sometimes just the culture and the mentalities just kind of hamper people and put like this kind of like 1984 cinder block around your neck of potential, because just that's the way the culture is. And people's mentality is just baked into them of like, well, I can't really do anything. I'm not a very good artist, or I'm not a very good this. But just the power they could have if they just put the time and work in. And I know it sounds cliche, but that's really it. I mean, that's all it is just putting the time and the work into it.
That's interesting. I know that Tim Burton, the director, he said that once you start kind of pegging anybody as a child, it really changes the way they are. He said positive or negative, because he said, when he was a kid, everyone would say, well, Tim's so good at drawing. Tim will just be drawing for the rest of his life, and he said that, just hearing that, even though it was positive reinforcement, it did make him, he said it did shape him, and he said, he's always leery of saying anything to kids, positive or negative, because he doesn't want it to shape them.
Right. I got you. Yeah.
It's funny. I went to an art exhibition of, Tim Burton, the director. I went to an art exhibition at LA County Museum of Art years back. And they had, when he was a kid, he entered a contest for the city of Burbank's waste management. They were having someone could draw the logo that was going to be on the side of the truck or whatever. And someone had kept one that Tim Burton drew. He won the contest when he was like 15 years old, and they had it in there, this like Burbank waste, and it was this cool little drawing of these, I think it was guys with trash and stuff, and it's just so cool that one had existed still.
That's awesome.
It's fascinating.
I remember this. I was a kid. I was probably 8, and there was like a something similar. It was a call for artists, and I think it was a museum or something in Amarillo, which was the big city close to where I grew up. But they were producing a Christmas card, and they did like a call to entry, and if you won, they produced your Christmas card. And I remember I drew this picture of like a cowboy boot with a Christmas wreath around the cowboy boot, and it says, "Have a bootiful Christmas," and it won. And I remember
Oh, really?
it won, and they produced it was like my first big professional.
It was your first playing card.
Yeah, and then they produced these Christmas cards, and I remember my parents still have one of those. It's a beautiful Christmas card. It's framed.
Can you post a photo of that sometime?
I'll have to get my mom to take a picture of it, but I mean,
I would love to see that.
you know, it was just like with pencil, and we call them map colors, but the colored pencils, we'd call them map colors.
Why did you call them that?
I don't know. I think it's just because that's what we used to color maps when we were in school. So we called colored pencils map colors.
Is that like a regional thing, you think?
I
Or
think
just
it's
your
I think
area?
it's like the same kind of thing of like Coke and pop and soda. We
Oh,
called them
yes.
we called them map colors. I don't know. Maybe it is a regional thing. But we called colored pencils map colors because
I've never heard that in my life.
because
Never. And I always like to like look up regional kind of sayings.
when I say map colors to my kids, they're like, "What? What are you talking about? Oh, you mean the colored pencils? Yeah, the map colors."
What was any of your kids born in LA?
Scarlett was born in Santa Monica.
Oh, wow, that's
hmm
cool.
Yeah,
Maybe she'll probably want some In-N-Out burger when she's older.
I love In-N-Out, man.
You know what's funny is my friend, my good buddy Mark Tucker, a huge influence on me. He was a Texan at USC Film School, and he was my advisor. He was getting his master's, and Mark's daughter, he worked for Disney actually. He was an executive at Disney, and his daughter was born in Burbank, and then they
Mm.
returned to Houston, and his son was born in Houston, and then his daughter still says, "Whataburger's so crappy, Dad. In-N-Out is the greatest." And then his son likes Whataburger more.
Yeah, it's funny that see, like where I like Whataburger wasn't a big. I've never been like a diehard Whataburger fan. That's really for people. Even Whataburger is a regional thing in Texas.
Absolutely, dude. My neighbor tells me it's so great. I mean, I'm sorry. Whataburger is like a multi-franchise. They don't even know who owns, half of them, or the quality standards are all over the
Yeah.
place. It's all frozen stuff. You cannot compare that to In-N-Out. I don't even care if you're being subjective or objective. You just have to look at In-N-Out as a company and how they
hmm
manage things, how tight that ship is run, and you know which one is better quality.
Yeah, for sure. I love In-N-Out, and even with Whataburger being a regional thing, like where I grew up, like Whataburger is big in the south of Texas, like Austin, San Antonio,
Corpus,
Corpus, those types of places. That's where Whataburger's big. But like
yes.
if you go up if once you pass the Cap Rock, which is like a landmass in Texas, where you go up, you rise in elevation and you hit the Cap Rock, and then that's basically the high plains of like the panhandle of Texas. Because then that's all West Texas. Anything west of the Cap Rock and north and west is like West Texas, like with El Paso, Odessa, Midland, like the Permian Basin with all the oil is. And then you've got the high plains and the panhandle. Like we didn't have Whataburger up
What did
there.
you have? What was your
We had
chain?
Dairy Queen.
Oh, okay.
And so like Dairy Queen is even worse than Whataburger. But like
Yeah,
Dairy Queen was our Whataburger when we grew up in the Panhandle. But
that's
it's
funny.
because I always thought it was interesting because when we moved to Austin, just how big of a deal everybody made of Whataburger. I was like, well, what's the deal with Whataburger? It's just like,
Oh, dude, the first meal I had in Texas when like we had moved here was Whataburger, and my kids. It's funny, my kids really like it, and they're like, "Oh, I like how there's mustard on the burger." And my wife and I were like, "Oh my God, this is really what people
I need
think
a
is
double
great."
double with cheese and grilled onions.
Yeah, I get my In-N-Out order has been the same for years. It is still. I live across the street from In-N-Out actually now. It's a great one. It's even better than the ones in California because there's no lineups,
hmm
and even though it's getting more crowded, but I think the quality is better at this one because they have more time.
Yeah.
My order is double double mustard fried,
Oof.
no tomatoes with
What's
grilled onions
what's
and
the
whole grilled
mustard
onions.
fried?
Mustard fried is where they squirt mustard on the patty as it's being cooked.
That sounds
and it
really.
has the addition of pickles.
That sounds really good.
Oh, you got to know mustard fried, and if you want, you can get chopped chilies, which they'll put some chopped banana pepper on it.
Man, that sounds good.
Yeah,
See, I know that
and
you
that's
grew up
one
in.
meal you'll
I know
miss,
that you
Doc.
grew up in California because like I spent enough time there to start knowing the hidden menu of In and Out. But
You know what's funny though is that like the hidden menu thing wasn't. I mean, it always existed, but nobody ordered that way when I was growing up. Everyone just got the number one, the double double
yeah,
combo. I mean, nobody started tinkering with menu stuff until maybe 15 years ago. Majorly.
mm, that's awesome.
I mean, it's always existed. I mean, like, and it's funny the two words like the Flying Dutchman, I think, is like two cheese, two buns, or something. I mean, they have all these cool
Yeah,
things that no one even really orders.
that's funny.
Grilled cheese, which is just a meatless burger.
Yeah.
What's the burger joint around you?
I'm trying to think. I mean, obviously Chick-fil-A is huge here, but it's not a burger joint. I think Five Guys is a pretty popular thing. It's okay.
It's real hit or miss.
However, they're not getting In and Out, but they're getting a Trader Joe's in Chattanooga next year.
Oh wow, that's a
Yeah,
big step.
That's one thing we ended up loving when we moved to California was the Trader Joe's because I lived.
Oh, that's our shop, and we have to drive 25 minutes here
Yep.
to go to Trader Joe's in Austin. But I mean,
Hmm.
at home there were just one in every corner.
Yeah, I remember we would walk. I remember when I was doing the original Federal 52. Man, I worked at the game studio. I worked what they called it crunch hours, and crunch hours were 7 to 7, 7 days a week.
Oh
And
wow,
and I remember
7 days a week.
yeah, when I was doing the Federal 52, it was during crunch hours, and I was designing. I was working on the Federal 52 at night when I'd get home from work, like just like late at night. And I remember I'd I'd walk over to Trader Joe's, give me some $2 Chuck wine, and come back and work on Federal 52,
Oh
man.
really?
Oh yeah,
So you would drink $2 Chuck and design that deck?
yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating, man.
I'd drink $2 Chuck, uh, design Federal 52, and I was like in this little cubby, like one of those like hallway cubby desks that was like a built-in that was like 3 feet wide. So I was designing
Yes.
Federal 52 in this little cubby in the hallway, and I would drink $2 Chuck and watch the new Battlestar Galactica designing Federal 52.
Oh my God, dude, that's funny. $2 Chuck now I think is 249.
Oh yeah, it's not $2 anymore.
I don't even know how there's enough grapes in the world to produce this stuff, to be honest with you.
That's probably not
I
grapes.
really think about that. Like I go to the Trader Joe's and I'm like, how is there this much real estate to grow grapes?
Yeah, yeah, or like Costco and stuff, man.
Okay, someone's talking about before Wendy's, Roy Rogers. I remember Roy Rogers, but Wendy's, I grew up going to Wendy's. I think my grandparents would
Yeah.
always take me to Wendy's or Arby's, not really
Hmm.
McDonald's as much.
Arby's, I mean, Wendy's was big in the Panhandle of Texas as well. Wendy's was
I
big.
love Wendy's.
I remember we'd always, in high school, we'd always for lunch because we had open campus and we could leave for lunch. We'd always rush, but we had like 35 minutes, and we'd rush to Wendy's and get us a junior, like we'd get like 4 junior bacon cheeseburgers and a frosty. And
You know what my Wendy's order is?
what?
Is the chicken nuggets, the
Mm,
regular ones, and fries, and then I get the smallest frosty, and I use the frosty as a dip for the chicken
absolutely,
nuggets and the fries.
absolutely. You're a frosty fry dipper. I knew those people well.
I'm a frosty dipper too, and people look at me like they're gonna barf, and you've never tried it. I mean, it is amazing.
Well, it's like the whole mayonnaise and fries. I mean, that's not as much of a jump as dipping your nuggets in a frosty, but I can
I
understand.
like mayo and fries too.
I can understand the allure because I like mayo and fries.
It's funny though. It's like people say they don't understand mayo and fries, and it's so Euro. But what is ranch dressing?
Yeah, it's basically mayo with some herbs.
Yeah, it's mayo, some like herbs, and then some sour cream to thin it or something.
Mhm. Also, Sonic was big too when I was a kid.
Oh, Sonic's so bad.
I like Sonic.
You know what, dude? Sonic is like it's like I know that all this food comes frozen for most fast food places, but Sonic to me is like they go to Costco and they pick up like a giant case of frozen stuff and then
Yeah,
like we'll heat it up for you.
yeah. I remember Man, what memories? Like all these memories are coming to my brain now. When I was in high school, I was a short order cook for
Oh wow.
a burger joint called the Golden Light Cafe, and it was in a gas station on
Wait, Golden Light?
Golden Light Cafe.
Where is it? What is it now?
It's still the Golden Light Cafe. It started on
Oh my God.
Route 66 in Amarillo, and then they on 6th Street in Amarillo where the Route 66 is, and they had a Golden Light Cafe since like the 30s or 40s, and then they opened up a location in Canyon on the main street, and Canyon's like 12,000 people when I was there, and it's probably 14,000 now. But it was this little burger joint, and I was a short order cook, and I cooked burgers and anything anybody wanted on just this big flat top griddle. Man, I had a blast at that job.
Were you a good cook?
Yeah, I could cook. I mean, like I loved doing that job. I
Were
had
the
fun.
patties frozen or
They were all,
fresh meat?
yeah. That's what made me remind it, because I remember all the patties were frozen, and
Oh,
I'd throw them on the griddle frozen. But but they were great burgers. You know, I had this big paintbrush that was it was like a sop brush that was submerged in a bucket of melted butter, and I would just
was it
paint.
really butter though?
Probably not. Of course, it probably wasn't. Really, what do you think, Brad? No, it wasn't butter. It's probably like motor oil or Crisco or something.
That
But
is funny.
I'd paint the buns with this yellow gold, whatever it was, tasted good, and
You
I'd
know
put.
what's funny is my wife a couple years ago, she won like, I don't know, she won some dinner at Red Lobster. I don't know if it was from work or something. And I had not been to Red Lobster since like 1983, when I begged my parents to take me there because I wanted to eat lobster, and they ordered me one. And then I was like, oh, this is sick. And they're like, oh, great. Can you pay us back? Um, but it's like, we went to Red Lobster, and I was like tasting
Oops,
this like
sorry.
butter dip, and I'm like, what the hell is this dip, dude? Like, this is so gross. And
Oh,
then like I got home, and I looked up Red Lobster butter, and then someone who worked there said, hey, all of our butter comes out of these containers of like this mystery oil, and
oh
we don't
man.
have any butter at all in the kitchen because some people come in and they have an allergy to something, and they're specifically asked for butter, and we'll say, okay, sure, but Red Lobster does not stock butter in any form.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
What was your favorite experience over at the Golden Light, and how long did you work there?
I think I worked there for like a year. Um, what was my best experience? Honestly, how weird it sounds. Like going back to that whole thing of like not being dependent on anybody. Like I liked, I loved the, um, I liked the ability that I liked how it taught me how to cook tons of stuff on a griddle. And like, and I used, we just recently got rid of our griddle that once we moved because it just kind of got bashed up. But I have a griddle instead of a grill. I have a griddle. You know, we cook burgers and all that kind of stuff. I can sear a steak. I can cook chicken fried rice on that kind of on a griddle and stuff like that.
What
And that
kind of
was
griddle is it that you have? Do you have like an old iron one though?
no, it's cast iron, but it's just like a Home Depot special. It's nothing. It's the one I had was a Next grill, but you can get one that's called like a Blackstone mix. It's like $200-300 griddle, and I think they're a great piece of cooking machinery. It's not really machinery, but
We have an old Griswold griddle that goes over your burners on the
yeah,
gas thing, that's
yeah,
from like 1940.
that's awesome.
We do pancakes on it. It's some lady, and I bought it like, Griswold cast iron is so expensive now.
Oh yeah,
But I bought it like 15 years ago, and it was nothing. It was some lady in Montana had it, and it was like in perfect condition. And
mm,
we've had that. I don't now I look at the prices. I'm like, okay, no, I'm not going to pay that now.
yeah, yeah. I love cooking pancakes and stuff on the griddles outside.
I love that stuff too, man.
Well,
People are
brother,
really shocked about
I think
the
that I think. That,
nuggets
well, go
in
ahead.
nuggets in Frosty. People are really surprised about it. I mean, go to Wendy's. I
Oh
mean, and
yeah,
ask them to make it fresh, because it'll have been sitting around for 10 hours if you don't. But get them to make it fresh and dip it in a Frosty, and you'll
yeah.
see.
No, like you told me that, it did not surprise me at all. Not at all. Not at all. I know those people, the nugget frosty dippers.
Oh man, there's a couple of us out there.
There are a couple of you. It's you and one other guy.
Yeah, me and the other guy keep Wendy's in business. There's a once every 3 years we go there.
I remember their spicy chicken sandwich, man. It's good.
Oh, that's a good sandwich, man.
We would always have the my homies when in high school. We'd always like challenge each other to go get the 4-patty burger, and we'd just go and eat the quad burger.
Was that on the menu?
No, we would just get like a double and then double it.
Oh wow, I know that In-N-Out put a limit on how many patties you can do.
Really?
Yep. I used to work at a Laserdisc store in Westminster, California, and they used to buy us lunch on the weekends if we worked. And so one time we went, and then one of the guys there was like being obnoxious, and he's like,
Of course he
"Can you
did.
get me a 16 by 16?"
Oh my gosh.
And the lady came back with a 16 by 16, and they had like laid it down and like in a bag, and it was just so sick, dude. And he was eating it with a fork and knife, and it was just so gross. And then remember a couple of years ago they put a limit on how many, and they said that they can't entertain it. The grill's so spread out for so many orders, they just can't do it.
Yeah. Was he just being obnoxious because the company was buying lunch?
Yes, it
Yeah.
was just so gross, man. And just watching him, I mean, it was one of those things. Like I'm not really a big shock value guy, so I'm like, I don't know if this is going to win you. Certainly not going to win you a girlfriend here. The women that work here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, man, I gotta hit ready and get ready for the day. But man, I always love chatting with you, man.
It is like the greatest time of our lives, Jackson.
And this deck is slowly coming together.
It is just amazing, and you are amazing, and it is something that keeps me up at night thinking about how exciting it is. And for everybody out there, I was bugging Jackson all week saying, when are we doing it again? Don't leave me on a dope high. I love doing this with.
Don't leave me on a dope high. That's awesome. All right, man. Well, I'll chat with you later.
Absolutely, Jackson. And you're the greatest. And thank you, anybody who watched this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for everybody that joined us today and has been here the whole time and been chatting with us. So, yeah. All right, Brad.
Thank you for being you, Jackson. I always learn something.
Brad, you have a great day, man.
You too, Jackson. Right. I have a microphone now, so watch out.
Oh, yeah. And I still need to send you that microphone that I was going to tell you I was going to send you.
Yeah, you'll do it.
I'll do it. It may be a couple of presidency terms later, but I'll send you that. It's
okay. We'll still be friends, and we'll still be working on stuff together.
That sounds good. It'd be the Clip Joint 19, the 20-year anniversary.
Well, that would be fantastic. That would be
the double X Clip Joint.
Or triple X.
Triple X Throwdown.
That's right, man.
All right, see you, Brad.
You're the greatest, Jackson. Take care, buddy.
All right, later. Awesome.